We are formally in session. Congratulations to all of our citizens who have chosen to serve the children of Wauwatosa in the role of a school board member. It is a unique role in American society to serve on a local school board for sure. And as Mr. Morris, I was just, as the kids say, I was ear hustling there a little bit. As he was telling Mr. Bauer, setting boundaries will be something that will emerge over time for sure. But you should know on behalf of the school district, we are really pleased that you took the time to serve children in this way. And please notice how I'm using my language of there will be a lot of different needs presented to you from various corners of the district, but I've always found that the boards that are the most efficient are the ones who center all their decisions on children and what's going to be best, not only for the children at this time in the district, but ultimately for generations ahead. That is the weight of the task in front of you. Dr. Lynn Worley is our current clerk. We are in a unique situation in that our board president and vice president transitioned off the board. So we are, Ms. Heimer Rollin and Dr. Worley are our two remaining elected officials. But regardless, as the clerk, she would be the person that administers the oath to you. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to her. After your oath is taken, there is an opportunity. I want to move the flags closer if you want to, and you should. You want to capture this for memorial's sake. We can take some pictures of you in front of the district logo and the flags. And then please, we want to thank family members who are in the audience for allowing us to work with your loved one. We promise not to keep them too long. Right, you don't believe that, but we'll try. And then once all those, all the festivities are taken care of with photos, oath taken, Jeremy is in the back who will give you a crash course in handling your technology. Dr. Worley?
Do we want to do it at the microphone? Or?
I think Corey, the microphones are on now, aren't they? So I think they're amplified at their current mics.
So you have a copy of your oath, and we'll go in order that is by seat number from smallest to largest. And I assume I'm supposed to read it and then you're supposed to repeat it. So I will take it in chunks, but you do have it in front of you. So Sarah Brzezinski, you're up first.
Okay.
So I, Sarah Brzezinski, having been elected or appointed to the office of Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 1,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat 1,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof, swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
We'll take care of the signing at the, do you?
After all of
Or are you supposed to watch you sign it? Oh, okay.
What is that?
You don't need a notary, you're able to.
Right.
Right now, I sign at the end.
Oh, wait. Yeah, if you want to sign yours and fill it in. And then I will continue on and I will sign all 4 of them at the end. I think that's the most effective way. Okay, we move on to Christopher Bauer.
Yes, ma'am.
I, Christopher Bauer,
I, Christopher Bauer,
having been elected or appointed to the office of
having been elected or appointed to the office of
Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 2,
Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat 2,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but yet not yet having entered into the duties thereof,
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll clap for all of them at the end. Okay, so you can fill out yours and then I'll sign it at the end. We'll move on to Heidi Bach. Seat 3. I just want to see who's sitting next to me. So I, Heidi Bach,
I, Heidi Bach,
having been elected or appointed to the office of the Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 3,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 3,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Welcome and congratulations. You want to fill that out, then I will sign it for you. And we turn to Jason Wadier. I, Jason Wadier,
I, Jason Wadier,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 7,
having been elected or appointed to the office of Wauwatosa School Board Member, seat number 7,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go. Many congratulations to you as you go forward in this journey. Don't hesitate to ask the existing school board members questions you have. We may or may not have answers or solutions or ideas. But we do welcome you, and we know that's a big first couple of meetings are a big changeover, so don't hesitate to slow things down as needed to make sure we all know where we need to be and what we're doing.
I call the April 28th, 2025 school board meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. We are in conference room C of the Fisher Administration Building at 12121 West North Avenue. Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski? Here. Mr. Bauer?
Here.
Ms. Bach? Here. Mr. Morris?
Here.
Ms. Heimer-Rowland?
Here,
Dr. Worley?
Here.
Mr. Wadier?
Here.
before we begin, I would just like to welcome our new school board members. They took the oath of office at 5 p.m. today, so welcome. It's exciting to have three of you on board. We'll move into public comments. Members of the Wauwatosa School Board value the input of students, parents, staff members, and community members. The board's regularly scheduled meetings provide an opportunity for opinions and concerns to be expressed publicly. The board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision-making. The board requests that individuals limit their comment on each item to 3 minutes. Following any comment, an individual board member may respond on the issue raised. However, it is not the intent of public comment portion of the agenda for the board to enter into a debate with a member of the community. Because non-agenda items are not publicly posted in advance, no action will be taken on public comment regarding non-agenda items this evening. We will have Mr. Morris, will hold up a yellow sign when you have 1 minute left and a red when your time is up. And Mr. Wadier will be keeping track of the 30 minutes tonight. So do we have anyone in the room who would like to give public comment?
Yes, sorry, we just have to. Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Means and members of the TOSA School Board. My name is Katie Hoyne, Mike Hoyne's daughter. I'm currently a freshman at UW-Madison. My dad is the principal of Wilson Elementary in WSD. Tonight, I want to talk about the power of impact. The way we touch the lives of others, whether intentional or not, can shape their futures, inspire their dreams, and offer them strength when they need it most. When I think of someone who has truly inspired me, I think of my dad. My dad isn't just a principal, he is a leader, a mentor, and a source of unwavering support. In his role, he impacts students, teachers, parents, and entire families in ways that go far beyond the walls of his school. For 33 years, he has shown up for the Wauwatosa community. His loyalty to bettering not only himself, but also the community around him is unmatched. From his days as a player on the Tosis basketball team to coaching them to a state championship in 2008 as an assistant coach, and most recently cutting the ribbon on the new school building, his achievements mirror the community's progress and success. Throughout his 13 years at Wilson and WSTEM, he's become a role model. When he gets home from work, he's excited to share students' successes with me. He recognizes potential and finds a way to push them to be better, not just academically, but as people. He continues to show up for his students, not just Monday through Friday, not just 7 to 5, but on weekends too. He attends basketball games and musical performances, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Through these actions, he reminds students that they are seen and valued. To his teachers, he is a pillar of support. He understands the challenges they face and works tirelessly to make their jobs more manageable. He listens, he encourages, and he leads with empathy. To me, a strong school isn't just built on lesson plans and test scores, but on passion, dedication, and a shared mission. With that foundation, the high test scores will come. He fosters a culture of respect and collaboration, reminding his staff that their work is important. As one of his 3 children, I've seen firsthand what true dedication looks like. I've watched him work long hours because he cares so deeply. I've seen him come home exhausted, but still ready to present for us, to listen, to offer advice, or to share a laugh. He has taught me the value of hard work. He has shown me what it means to lead by example and to always leave things better than you found them. And most importantly, I have watched day after day as he puts others before himself. The impact my dad has had on the Wauwatosa community is immeasurable. It extends far beyond report cards and school meetings. It is woven into the lives of every student who has walked through his doors, every teacher who has worked under his leadership, and every family who has placed their trust in him. Perhaps most importantly, it is felt in the love and strength he gives to his own family every single day. Over the past few years, I've watched the...
Sorry.
Let her finish. There you go.
Over the past few years, we have watched the leadership change in Wauwatosa, and with it, a noticeable impact on my dad. Despite my dad's continued dedication to his students, his teachers, and his school, the recognition and support he deserved were absent. Instead, the burden of stress and unrelenting negativity consumed him. His successes went unnoticed, and instead of being celebrated, he was met with unwarranted challenges. My dad planned to continue his administrative journey in this district, but I'm thrilled that he is able to bring his expertise, talents, and dedication to a district that aligns with his high values and morals, and one that is already recognizing the gifts he brings into an educational setting he walks into. This past year has been very difficult, but through it all, my dad never let it show. He continued to show up with a smile, determined not to affect those who relied on him. That is the kind of person he is, the kind of leader he is. I refuse to let his impact go unrecognized. Tonight, I use my voice and my sisters to advocate for the man who has spent his entire life advocating for others. So I ask all of you to remember the impact we can have, not just on those who look up to us, but on those who give so much of themselves every single day. Let us recognize, support, and uplift the people who make our schools, our communities, and our lives better. Dad, your impact is undeniable. Your dedication is inspiring, and no matter what challenges come your way, you will always have a family and a community who see you, who value you, and stand beside you. Thank you for your time.
Evening, Dr. Means, board members, administration. My name is Chris Merker. I'm a McKinley and Longfellow parent, former school board candidate, and representative of at least 50 McKinley families and individuals deeply concerned about the leadership crisis in McKinley Elementary. I think we have 30 in the room alone tonight, so quite a showing. Since fall 2024, families and staff have raised urgent concerns: academic decline, staff morale collapse, behavioral incidents escalating, leadership refusing to take accountability, breakdown in communication and transparency. Despite months of outreach, private, public, and direct, the situation has only worsened. Trust is broken, morale is broken, our school community is broken. What truly set this crisis in motion was when Principal Martin, in a public forum, accused our teachers, the very people who show up every day for our children, of being racist and of opposing students with special needs. You cannot unsee that, and you cannot unhear it. It was a devastating breach of trust, professionalism, and leadership, one that fractured the very foundation of our school community. Once that line was crossed, it became clear healing under this leadership was no longer possible, and no amount of investigation or restorative efforts will change that. We are calling for three things tonight: immediate leadership transition at McKinley, stronger governance oversight by the district and board, stabilization efforts focused on restoring trust, safety, and academic excellence. You will hear from other McKinley parents tonight, each speaking to specific failures in accountability, advocacy, and leadership itself. Each voice represents a broader community standing together, demanding action. McKinley's students, teachers, and families deserve better, and the time for leadership change is now. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Libby Woodard, and I serve as the secretary of the WSTEM Governance Council. My husband Troy ran for this school board because he believed in the responsible use of district resources and advancing initiatives like STEM for All. To the newly elected board members that were just sworn in, congratulations. I truly hope you help lead this school board along with some integrity. I'm here tonight because what happened last week was not just disappointing, it was devastating. Almost a year ago, WSTEM was asked to renegotiate our contract off schedule early. We engaged fully, working with experts, following every direction from the district, and showing up in good faith. 6 months ago, this board voted to explore a future for WSTEM, and we continued to invest countless hours, energy, and hope into a process we believed would be collaborative. Instead, without a single meeting with us, without a single town hall, like other schools who recently faced closure were afforded, with no explanation, after 2 hours behind closed doors, you voted to shut us down. We worked countless hours over holidays, weekends, and nights. It feels like all that time, energy, and money was wasted with no remorse. Just last month, Dr. Means sat in our governance council meeting and assured us there was no plan to close WSTEM before 2030. He told us if we rescinded our letter, we would re-enter negotiations. We complied. We met as requested with our attorneys present and still received no real answers, only silence. followed by a sudden decision to end our school's future. This was not collaboration. We were treated differently. Experts at the Wisconsin Resource Center for Charter Schools have told us they have never seen a district treat their own charter school in this way. This abrupt, chaotic decision violates our agreement and forces needless disruption onto families, teachers, and children. As our authorizer, this school board, or the previous school board, had a responsibility to work with us and did not. It's a breach of contract, a breach of trust, and a stain on the promise this district claims to make for every child. This is not what's best for kids. This is not equitable. Throughout this process, it's been heartbreaking to hear some of our community loudly cheer for our closure in the name of equity. When other schools recently faced closure, yes to Tosa Kids was born, and WSTEM families stood with you. We showed up for you. I asked you tonight to reflect honestly, if this were your school, would this feel right? Would this feel fair? To those who did reach out with kindness, you reminded us what real community looks like, and we are grateful. But make no mistake, this is a loss for kids, teachers, and the future of Tosa schools. We are your neighbors, your volunteers, and your supporters. WSTEM families are not outsiders. We attend Longfellow, Whitman, West, and East. And we deserve we are as much of a part of the Tosa School District as anyone else, and we deserved better.
My name is Jessica Haywood. I am a parent of a second grader at WSTEM, and I'm sure many of you are sick of hearing us, but welcome to the new board. You now get to hear us this time. I would like to express my deep concern at what is happening within the district as a whole. The level of false hope and complete lack of honest communication from this district is truly astounding. Over the last year, the WSTEM community has been treated with disrespect, half-truths, and backroom deals that should terrify every single parent and taxpayer in Wauwatosa. What has happened to WSTEM is not just a WSTEM issue, it is a district-wide problem. If the district is willing to close the top-performing school in Wauwatosa, they are willing to do anything. The future of our entire district is at risk, and people need to wake up. On March 19th, Dr. Means attended a special meeting with the WSTEM community. He shared the following statement with us, which we feel should be submitted into record, and I quote, "As an initial matter, the district continues to desire a collaborative relationship with the WSTEM community. Please know that I am in attendance as a symbolic attempt to demonstrate respect for the WSTEM community. On October 28th, the school board took action to authorize offering a new and final 5-year charter agreement." It's just so frustrating. If the Governance Council has a desire to resume negotiations regarding such a contract, a prerequisite to any potential discussions would be a full retraction of the Governance Council's January 5th correspondence forwarded to my attention immediately. Without a formal retraction of this January 5th correspondence, the parties will operate under the current agreement until the expiration at the end of the 25-26 school year. To be clear, the district has never desired to end WSTEM prior to June 30th, 2030. As superintendent, my role is to make recommendations to the board. My position has not wavered. A final 5-year contract for WSTEM should be offered. End quote. At that meeting, he told us plainly, if January 5th letter was rescinded, he would immediately recommend to the school board that they offer us a new contract. We did what was asked. We retract. What happened next? Nothing more than secret meetings, political maneuvering, and more silence. Not once was our community giving an honest update. Not once was promised action taken. This isn't about WSTEM anymore. This is about the way the entire district is being run, through secrecy, manipulation, and backroom politics. If this is how leadership is allowed to operate, there is no school, no program, and no family that is safe in this district. Tonight, the newly elected board has a chance to start repairing the broken trust. You have a chance to make this right, to honor the promises made to WSTEM and show the entire district that you will no longer allow dysfunction and deception to rule. You can choose to stop this downward spiral before it's too late. Because if you don't, if you allow WSTEM to be dismantled, the damage to this district will be deep, lasting, and undeniable. The decline of Wauwatosa schools will not be an accident. It will be a direct result of your inaction. We are asking, no demanding, that you lead with courage and integrity, restore WSTEM, restore the community's trust, and restore pride and excellence to the Wauwatosa schools. Thanks.
Based on how much time is left for public comment?
A little over 15 minutes.
Gaylor district parent. It seems to be a lot of disappointment and dismay with the district regarding the McKinley situation. As someone in a leadership role within my own organization, I recognize the responsibilities and challenges facing Mr. Martin as principal McKinley. A while back, I too joined a team of tenured people with established relationships and ways of doing things. So I empathize with Mr. Martin and understand the types of pitfalls that he's navigated. What I don't understand is how we've gotten to the level of acrimony that we're hearing about at McKinley, where a teacher left mid-year because the environment had gotten so toxic. My son was in her class and saw 2 classmates leave the district mid-year as well, their parents apprehensive about the direction McKinley was headed. And I appreciate the efforts that have finally been made to start to address the situation, although I fear it's too little, too late for McKinley to escape further blows to its teaching ranks, its culture, and its performance. And what concerns me even more about the endeavor is that I don't hear any accountability from Mr. Martin. When I asked him directly during a recent community meeting about his role in the issues that have arisen, he said he, of course, owned some part of what's transpired, but then went on to suggest that the true reasons for the unrest lay elsewhere, including unpopular directives from the district that he was instructed to make appear came from him, and teacher infighting, which I've heard from teachers is not true. I didn't get a sense that he really felt he bore any responsibility. That's a problem because to hear teachers tell it, Mr. Martin has lied about things that has been said and done, used performance plans as weapon, and destroyed any semblance of trust from the teacher and staff. At this point, unfortunately, the situation seems to have devolved to a point of no return, and I fear the only option left is a leadership change. I ask that you take a teacher-centered approach, work closely with them to determine the best way forward, and ensure that our most valued assets, those teachers, feel appreciated and valued at McKinley. Thank you.
Amy, I see 2 hands online. Can we take those 2 comments,
Yeah.
please?
Absolutely. Kayla's iPhone, you have the microphone. Kayla's iPhone, you have the microphone.
I think they're on mute.
Yeah.
I'm here. Hi.
Okay. There you go. We can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. So I am Kayla Merker. I live at 9326 Ridge Boulevard. I'm here today representing not just myself, but many concerned parents and community members who have contacted you repeatedly about serious leadership concerns at McKinley Elementary. Despite months of outreach, all we have received is lip service, promises to look into and will investigate, or there are parents who are satisfied with Mr. Martin's leadership. The issues surrounding Mr. Martin's leadership cannot be ignored. He has created a hostile work environment for our teachers, marked by unprofessional behavior, intimidation, and disrespect. Teachers are now too afraid to advocate for themselves because they fear retaliation. Mr. Martin has openly deflected blame for poor test scores and in front of parents called all the teachers racist. That is completely unacceptable. Right then and there, he should have been walked out the door. Dr. Means heard these comments and did nothing. Earlier that same day, Dr. Means also witnessed teachers leaving a staff meeting in tears after Mr. Martin screamed at them, blaming them for the low test scores. Teachers left crying because of how they were treated. And again, nothing was done. These are just 2 examples and of many more. How many more incidents must happen before action is taken? It is clear that Mr. Martin is systematically pushing out experienced staff and replacing them with inexperienced hires who are less likely to challenge him. As an active volunteer, I have seen firsthand how the school environment has declined rapidly under his leadership, both in staff morale and physical upkeep of the building. His lack of professionalism even extends to his own appearance, setting a poor example for students and staff. No professional organization would tolerate a leader who calls staff racist without cause, screams at them, and makes them cry in meetings or regularly belittles them. Yet here, despite overwhelming evidence and ongoing complaints, nothing has been done. To the newly elected board members who ran on platforms of supporting teachers and students, now is the time to put your money where your mouth is. McKinley once thrived under strong leadership. It can again, um, it can again and swift action is taken. The trust has been broken between leadership, teachers, and families. It is time for action. No more empty words. Thank you.
The next one, Annie, iPhone, you have the microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Annie Marino, and I'm the parent of a McKinley Elementary student speaking in support of a principal change. The board has 3 commitments in your North Star, the second being to ensure TOSA has excellent educators who have the support and resources to thrive in educating our kids. When my son walks into McKinley, the quality of his teachers, including their experience, enthusiasm, and expertise, is the most important factor to his success. From my observations, a principal change at McKinley is necessary to honor that commitment. To understand the McKinley staff community issue, we have to acknowledge and accept that seemingly contradictory things can all be true. First, I've had positive interactions with Principal Martin, and I support a principal change. I'm not here to invalidate the opinions of those who have also had positive interactions with him. Second, I believe change management is hard. I've led it myself, and I believe Principal Martin has executed it poorly at McKinley. He has shared that staff's complaints derive from policy and procedure change as required by the district. It's true that with change at any workplace, staff can resist and become fatigued. It's also true that McKinley staff surveys and the need for the district to bring in outside facilitators to redo root cause analysis, the school growth plan, and to try to repair relationships reflect a failure to properly effectuate change. This includes failure to provide support, clear objectives and communication, reasoning, and staff engagement in decision-making. Third, it's true that relationships can be repaired, and it's also true that we cannot overspend on time and money to repair this principal-staff relationship. Time and money are finite resources, and McKinley kids deserve our teachers' time and the district's money to be spent in direct support of them. We know that in the fall 2024 survey, 40% of staff reported that they sometimes or never felt supported by Principal Martin. And we know that the district has brought in outside facilitators to redo root cause analysis, the school growth plan, and to try to repair relationships. The McKinley community needs to understand the state of staff morale, but at a mid-April meeting, Principal Martin had no substantive outcomes or updates to share. McKinley is beyond hypothetical what-if consequences from staff dissatisfaction. Staff and families have left or intend to leave. New families are choosing to enroll elsewhere. There's tension in the school community, and families feel left out in the dark. We must retain excellent educators to provide optimal outcomes for all kids, and we need to act to ensure we achieve that fundamental goal. McKinley needs a principal who can implement change by inspiring, motivating, and supporting the staff who trust the principal wholeheartedly. We can appreciate and respect Principal Martin's contributions and want the best for him, and we can be at a pivotal point to need a new leader to inspire McKinley to be the absolute best it can be. Thank you for your time. I emailed the board as well, and I welcome any comments or questions in response.
There are no more hands raised.
Hello, everybody. My name is Joey. I'm a WSTEM parent and the district parent and a taxpayer. I'm extremely disappointed what happened last week with WSTEM. But it also seems like we got our hands full of McKinley as well, so I will keep my comments very fast. After 2 hours behind closed doors last week, there was no explanation, no ownership. You were here. No explanation and no ownership of what happened. We get the district's attorney was here. I don't know if he's here tonight, but the last I checked, he is not a board member. I mean, we watched you folks go back and forth for more than a half an hour on $1,600 when we all got 2 seconds to close our school. But that's not even the most shocking part about this, or the most unnerving part about this. Over the last months, many of us have been having conversations with each and every one of you on this current board, including you, Dr. Means. We had board members emailing us from their vacations, pushing us forward to rescind this letter, pushing us forward to take action at our school. And we did that. What's beyond unusual is that none of you talk to our governing council. None of you are allowed to talk to our governing council, especially when it's under duress. Doesn't that seem kind of unusual? Why did you make us rescind the letter? Why did you schedule a special meeting with us? Why does WSTEM get 5 more years? There's so many whys, and we can't even tell the teachers or our kids why. Why'd they close your school? You know what? I don't know why. All we're subject to now is Facebook posts of all these parents going crazy. And quite honestly, it's embarrassing. If I hear that WSTEM skis one more time, it is outrageous. Of course they ski. That's great. It's parent funded. There's a planetarium at Wauwatosa West and a brand new pool at Wauwatosa East. There's imbalances everywhere in the district. You have an opportunity to be transparent. You owe it to us. The community deserves better and the students are watching. Do it for them. Do it for these guys right here that are with you all the time here as volunteers. Words are easy, actions matter. You voted to close a school, an entire school that's outperforming others. The community has the right to know what happened. And most parents are thinking, if performance is number one, what is going to happen to the next top performing school? New board members, congratulations. We are very happy you are here. But now is your time. Each of you came here with a different story, but you share the same opportunity to leave your mark by making this district stronger, better, and worthy of the students it serves. Maybe you may remember it as the board that saved a school, the top performing school. It's been done before. They saved Wilson 20 years ago, but we deserve better. And to top it all off, and I'm going to go off script here for a second. I'm an ex-McKinley parent. And now I got to decide to go back to McKinley with all these folks behind me. What are we doing here, everybody? So a new board, thank you all for your time. And new board members, welcome and congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much.
We have time for one more public comment.
Hi, my name is Jed Turk. Let me read. Closer.
Oh,
Raise it. Sorry. Stuck down. What? Hello, my name is Jed Turk. I am the father of a third grader at WSTEM and a JK student at Wilson. I'll say good evening to my fellow Tosa residents, and let me be clear. I am not here to discuss the closing of WSTEM. I am here to talk about the deceitful and manipulative words and actions of the superintendent and the school board. I understand that a school board is tasked with making tough decisions, but a school board and superintendent can and always should operate with openness, honesty, and integrity. And the school board and superintendent have failed to do so every step of the way. I'm speaking out today in hopes this inspires change so that no other families will go through what we went through and be treated like we were. This is not just a WSTEM issue. This is a whole community issue. The school district unnecessarily and wastefully spent $35,000
You want to come up and use one of these links?
The Wauwatosa School District unnecessarily and wastefully spent $35,000 in legal fees in just 2024 in relation to WSTEM, with at least that much probably coming in 2025. A lot of the fees were from when the WSTEM parent volunteers still thought they had a collaborative partner in the district because they took the superintendent at his word when he directly stated that he had no intention of closing WSTEM. The failures of the superintendent and the district started even before this when they breached our current contract and failed to perform the charter review in year 3 and make the notice of non-renewal, avoiding all this chaos. Since then, the district has provided an ever-changing variety of directives and hoops to jump through, wasting the time of our parent volunteers and teachers. False and misleading statements were made about the supposed extra resources given to WSTEM by board members Worley and Heimerl Rowland, and then repeated by the superintendent. WSTEM does not receive any extra resources. All special program at WSTEM is achieved through fundraising. So I ask, why would you need to make such false statements if your reasons for closing the school are good and true? More recently, I've had some very troubling interactions with the recently re-elected Jason Wattier. In March, I asked if he would support a new 5-year contract with the school lottery for the full 5 years or even just for the first 3 years of the contract. He responded with, and I would quote in full, "The short and simple answer is yes. I would support and vote in favor of either of those options. I've had discussions with several parents as well as Dr. Means in an effort to bring this back to a positive place. You have my support, and thank you for reaching out." So you can imagine the absolute shock I had when at this level of deceit and manipulation when Jason voted to close the school. After receiving one non-answer, I asked Jason again why he voted this way, and he still would not answer, stating, "I cannot give specific reasoning why," hiding behind the closed-door meeting policies. If you are acting in an ethical manner, why the secrecy? What is there that needs to be hidden? Again, I am here because I fear for the future of the school district and our community. If this superintendent and school board continue to operate in this way, it might just be WSTEM for now, but what could be next? So I asked the new school board members.
Time is. Thank you.
Is that my full time or because I had
I'd
extra? Yeah.
like to make a motion to add 10 minutes.
We have a motion to add 10 minutes.
There's
to
one
comment.
hand online and there's 2 people.
So public comment, can I have a second? Okay. That motion passes. We'll add 10 more minutes, or Jason can add 10 minutes.
You have to take a vote.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's right. Julia, can you call roll?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach. Yes. Mr. Morris.
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Rolland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Wattier.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Will Patton, and I'm a father of 2 kids at McKinley. I would like to express my disappointment in Principal Ted Martin's lack of advocacy for his teachers and his failure to do what is best for the school and the students. We have heard time and time again how teachers go to Mr. Martin for support, rather than creating a supportive environment for the teachers or reaching out to the district administration to advocate for additional support and resources. Mr. Martin has done the opposite. He has created division between support staff and his teachers and has blamed them for needing additional support. Teachers are villainized and often punished for requesting additional help, and Mr. Martin has failed to meet the needs of his teachers despite repeated efforts. When the district informed Mr. Martin that he had to reduce building staff next year by 2 FTEs, Mr. Martin chose to keep an educational assistant in lieu of a teacher. He has chosen to reduce the upcoming 4th and 5th grade classes to 2 sections, which will result in the largest class sizes at these grade levels across the entire district. Research shows that smaller classroom sizes are integral to the improved academic outcomes, a more positive learning environment, and enhanced social emotional development, all of which are a focus of this district. Mr. Martin failed to communicate his decision to the families that would be impacted, and we only found out by scouring the recent school board meeting notes. Mr. Martin is keenly aware of the unusually high level of disruptive behavior in these classrooms, and when asked what sort of environment will be created next year with these larger class sizes, he predicted the year to be, and I quote, "interesting." This does not provide much faith or confidence during our children's formative years of education. When the parents met with Mr. Martin pleading he reconsider his decision or advocate to the board, he stated that there was nothing we could do and there was, quote, "no point in talking to the school board." That response was not satisfactory, and we knew we had to advocate for our teachers and our students on our own. My wife reached out directly to the school board and worked with Dr. Means, Liz, and the rest of the school board and to advocate for the reallocation of an educational assistant from another school to McKinley, something that was done within 1 week. We greatly appreciate Dr. Means and the board taking action so quickly, but it is also extremely frustrating to wonder what could have happened. And could we have retained a teacher if Mr. Martin had done his job in the first place 2 months ago? Why are the parents advocating for the teachers and the students far more than their own principal? Based on the current state of McKinley, we suspect Mr. Martin is using the FTE reduction to eliminate teachers that don't fall in line with his ineffective leadership, further reducing the number of beloved veteran teachers at McKinley and deepening the divide between him and his teachers. Mr. Martin has been given every opportunity to advocate for his teachers, but he simply does not feel the need to do so. For that reason and the other reasons that you've heard here tonight, Mr. Martin has failed as the leader of McKinley and has failed so many of our teachers, students, and families at McKinley. Thank you.
Amy, can we go to the online comment, please?
Sure. Jordan Acker Anderson, you have the microphone.
Thank you, Mike. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we can.
So my comment will be brief. I'm a McKinley parent representing multiple families with deep concern about 4th and 5th grade classrooms that are going to reach the size of 27 and 28 students. This is not what I would like to see for teachers or students, and I'm very concerned about that class size, and multiple parents are worried about their own kids in those classes. Thank you.
There are no more hands raised online.
Good evening. My name is Katie Asmus. My children attend McKinley and Whitman schools. My husband and I have been parents at McKinley for 8 years and Wauwatosa citizens for 15 years. I would like to address 3 key points tonight: my children, our teachers, and the lack of clear, trusting leadership. We chose this community to help raise our 3 children. We've had many positive experiences in this community and at McKinley. However, the growing concerns that teachers will leave, coupled with increased stressors and sizes of the classes, has me question our future at McKinley. Over the past 8 years, what we know matters most at school is our teachers. They are the backbone of our school. Their professional expertise, patience, and advocacy for our children is like no other. They are the spirit, the light, and the love of our school. They taught my daughter the meaning of empathy in kindergarten. And they taught my son that he can strive even higher with his math that he loves. But they cannot be asked to do more with less. This cannot happen. As you know, last week, leadership at McKinley made an autonomous decision to move the 4th and 5th grade classes to 26.5 students. That's 27 or 28. There has now been approval for 1 EA to be shared amongst 4 classes. I ask you, how many students will this EA be working with? Will my child get extra care and support? Will it continue to grow his academic excellence? I am doubtful of this. I do not have trust or confidence that this will be achieved, as this decision to raise class volumes was done without careful consideration of parent stakeholders. Not only are we asking teachers to do more with less, but we are asking our children to do the same. So I ask, how is my high-achieving son going to grow? And how are my tax dollars really being used? I'm incredibly concerned that this additional strain of higher student volumes in this crucial learning years will have 2 outcomes. 1, less student growth, and 2, teachers burnout and teachers leaving. We need a leader to make expert decisions that will bring the greatest good for all of our children. We need a leader who will invest all they have into the most tenured and expert teachers. Our children have 1 chance to do this, 1 chance. Elementary school should be fun and exciting and joyous. It should not be strained by lack of personal attention, disruptive classes, or inexperienced teachers and larger class volumes. I ask that you take serious investigation in the matter and look at all these parents that are here and online. This is a serious matter, and we ask that leadership be changed at our current elementary school. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for the extra time for comments. My name is Faith Nichols. And I've been fortunate to be able to send my kids to McKinley, our neighborhood school, for 3 years now. I have 1 child in 2nd grade and 1 in JK. We are dedicated to public education where everyone has access to learn, grow, and have their needs met. I care deeply about this on many levels, and I think you do too, or you would not be here. I also know that there are 2 sides to every story, and I hope tonight's comments help you hear more than 1 side. Mr. Martin's story. Unfortunately, things are not going well at McKinley. The leadership is poor. Our principal, Mr. Martin, has showed again and again in the last 2 years how he chooses to lead. He leads with authority, not collaboration with staff or parents, leading to great mistrust. He leads to be right, not taking any accountability for missteps in data gathering, analysis, or next steps, as evidenced by the root cause analysis performed last fall which was deemed invalid. He leads by not adequately supporting those students that, as we say in my family, are good kids that are having a very hard time. Behavior issues resulting in classroom disruption and even injury. These kids are showing they need help, and Mr. Martin has not stepped in to help them or given teachers the resources to help them adequately. This shows his disconnect. I ask you, what does an effective principal leadership look like? Because that is what is needed. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the end of public comment. Thank you for everybody who has come to share their concerns with the board today.
This time around, can I say something real quick? To the McKinley families, thank you for showing up and giving me a heads up that you were. I appreciate that. It should be noted that the school board has one employee, Dr. Means, and our responsibility is to be sure that the decisions that he and his proxies make are those that are in the best interest of all. Our job is to assess how he handles issues and to create the policies that then push forward the school district as a whole. That said, Dr. Means, would you be able and willing to work with your cabinet to generate a report, an executive summary of what is going on from the district's point of view, so that we can be briefed on both McKinley's PAC and then also from the district side as well.
Yes. The district has, I believe, taken an extraordinary step. We had a restorative facilitator work with the staff and Mr. Martin to try to repair relationships. That's something in all my years as a superintendent I've never had to do. We also have an investigation in place right now where we're examining the professional climate of McKinley, being conducted by our law firm, Bulow Vetter, and a retired school administrator. That report should be given to the district no later than Friday, May 9th, which is next week, Friday. Based on all of that information, which is objective information, I will continue to try to determine what the next steps should be. But to answer your question directly, yes, I will make a decision on what needs to happen next with the employee that reports to me, which is Mr. Martin. And I will make that determination based on objective information.
Thank you.
We will now move towards the annual board reorganization. Dr. Means will be leading us through the nomination and voting process.
Thank you. So there are 4 officer positions that the board needs to vote on. The first is board president. The role of board president is one in which, and I think you will have to decide how you want to proceed, but at the very minimum, this is the person who chairs the meetings when we have board meetings on the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month. The board president is also tasked with working in collaboration with me and others in developing the agenda for board meetings. What I meant earlier in terms of how you want to proceed. Some school boards have the board president serve as the official spokesperson for the entire board. And so what that means is if there's a email sent to the entire board, I've seen some boards task the board president with being the one person that speaks on behalf of the board. Sometimes boards feel the need to speak individually. And so I think that's something as you continue to reorganize as a board, how you want to proceed. I'm being cautious in describing the role of the board president because the board president isn't any more important than any other board member. That person simply chairs the board meetings. I like to always say in many ways, your voice should be muted during board meetings because your primary role is to make sure that the board meeting is being chaired appropriately and that you're soliciting the opinions of the other 6 board members. So that's a high level description of what the board president does on a day-to-day basis. With that being said, we will take nominations for the role of the board president. I guess the only other thing I would share with you is that typically in a community like ours, the board president is that one board member that the community will highlight to make sure that emails are sent to for solicitation of opinions. So you may get more emails than other board members. But you're viewed as the ceremonial leader of the board, if nothing else. But I just want to emphasize for the board and for the community, it doesn't indicate that the board president is more important or has more authority than any other board member. With that being said, I'll pass around the nomination papers. This is your opportunity as a board to discuss if individuals would like to pursue the role of board president and would accept the nomination, if so, bestowed upon you. So this is your chance to either talk about it publicly, or you can just simply turn in your nominations. This is also an opportunity for you to nominate someone else without their knowledge.
Any comments from board members?
It's your chance to talk. But an extra one. Here was an extra. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the extra one.
Questions from the new board members? Any thoughts?
If not, I'll just I'll read off how the nominations play out.
Julia. Thank you. About the touching yours. Apologies.
Violations first day.
Yeah, first day.
Thank you, ma'am. One abstain, one for Liz, 2 for Liz, 1 for Lynn, 2 for Lynn, 3 for Liz, 4 for Liz. Those are nominations. So I guess the question would be, Liz, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Lynn, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay. So we have 2 candidates for the role of board. Okay, so now I will pass out the actual ballots. The color is red. Just to find a way to separate it out. Okay. Dr. Lynn Worley has been elected board president. You may applaud. So the next position for nomination is board vice president. The board vice president, I believe in many ways is very, very pivotal to the success of a board. When a board president is unable to fulfill their role to chair a meeting, the board vice president steps in, but it's more than that. In some cases, I've seen the model where a board president and vice president serves together in developing agendas. It becomes we're going to have a workshop with our legal counsel where you want to make sure you stay away from walking quorums. But when a board president is unavailable or not accessible, the board vice president can be that conduit to answer questions of board members. So you don't have to just rely on one person. The strength of a board, in my opinion, is when you have a really strong team of a board president and vice president. It is more than just the person who steps in when the board president is unable to chair a meeting. But let's pause here and see if there are any other questions on the role of the board vice president before we hand out ballots for nominations.
I would just affirm as incoming board president that I'm very much a collaborator, and I would like to have that model, if the board would like it, to have the vice president play perhaps a more instrumental role than we've seen in the last few years.
So with that in mind, if there's no other discussion, I'll pass around the nomination ballots. Again, this is your opportunity to either nominate yourself or someone without their knowledge, which is a nice gift. We have a nomination for Jason Wadier. Nomination for Liz Hammer-Rollin. Crowded field here. A nomination for Chris Bauer. Nomination for Phil Morris. So we have 4 nominations. Mr. Bauer, Mr. Wadier, Ms. Hammer-Rollin, Mr. Morris. Mr. Morris, do you accept the nomination?
I do not accept the nomination.
There's a decline of the nomination. Mr. Bauer, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Ms. Hammer-Rollin, do you accept the nomination? Thank you. Okay. Wadier, do you accept the nomination? No. Okay. Well,
Yes.
okay. So we have 2 nominees. We have Mr. Bauer. It's Hammer-Rollin. Red. A vote of on an affirmative vote, I'll just say it that way, Ms. Hammer-Rollin has been elected board vice president. The next position up for nomination is board clerk. And I would defer to Dr. Worley to weigh in on this as well. The role of the board clerk is to be the official signature.
And treasurer.
Oh, I'm sorry, treasurer is next?
Yeah.
That's good. Board treasurer. The role of board treasurer is the official signature of any financial documents that are presented on behalf of the school board. That this person typically serves on our finance and operations committee. This individual works closely with Mr. Ecker to ensure that we're tracking positively with all of our financial records. I will have to state that Mr. Ecker has made this extremely easy for the entire board, and that the information that is provided to the Finance and Operations Committee is typically also given to the entire board. You do not have to have a strong financial acumen to be in this role. Mr. Ecker does a very good job in working with whoever serves in the role of treasurer to make sure that the information is consumable and understandable. There's also a crossover in making sure that there is knowledge with what Ms. Zelazowski does with our staffing, because approximately over 70% of our budget is associated with personnel. And there's also a lot of work associated with working with our buildings and grounds team because of the high costs. So that is the role of the treasurer. Liz, you've served in that role. Is there anything that you would add?
No, but I think this is a position that you learn a lot about the school district. So even if you don't want to take the role as treasurer right now, being on the finance resource committee is really informative, and watching the meetings and keeping track of those minutes and agendas is really important too, as I think for all board members.
We have two nominees, and so you have to decide if you want to take the nominations or not. It's to the left of us here. Jason and Sarah, you've been nominated as potential candidates to serve as treasurer. You have the right to decline the nomination. Sarah, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Jason, do you accept the nomination? Yes. Okay. We have two candidates for the role of board treasurer. We're voting for two candidates, Sarah and Jason.
We're voting for one candidate.
I'm sorry. It's not Chicago. Yeah, one candidate. Now we're voting.
There we go.
No, my apologies to anyone from Chicago. Affirmative vote, Jason Wadier has been elected for treasurer. Congratulations. And I'm sorry for the preemptive review of board clerk. But again, the role of the board clerk is to serve as the official signature of on official documents that the district has. I've referenced Mr. Ecker and Mr. Kevin LaFountain, who is our Director of Buildings and Grounds, and Ms. Zolazowski, our Chief of Talent. Those are the three people that typically Mr. Wadier, formerly Ms. Hammer worked with as treasurer. The clerk gets the opportunity to work with Ms. Summers closely. You will receive calls from Ms. Summers to validate and to sign off on a lot of official documents that either must go to the Department of Public Instruction or other official documents. And that's the extent to the role of the clerk. Is there anything else you would add, Dr. Worley or Ms. Summers?
I would say that there's a significant part of the board election that the board clerk would participate in, which we have an upcoming election in a year. So they might help locate board canvassers for us, read oaths of office, et cetera.
I would just add that Ms. Summers makes it incredibly straightforward, manageable, and pleasurable to be our board clerk. I know there are communities in Wisconsin that don't have the kind of support that we do. And I just appreciate how that has gone this year. But yes, you do sign a lot of documents, and you are part of reviewing things during elections. And that's really the extent of the day-to-day work. It's not a lot of hours or very demanding.
He trying to send us the ballot, right?
She just says no.
That's ridiculous.
Nominations are not going around that are. We have 4 nominees. Spock, you've been nominated. Sarah, you've been nominated. Philip, you've been nominated. Chris, you've been nominated. So we'll go around starting to my right. Do you accept the nomination?
I'll decline.
Sparta, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Yes.
And Sarah.
No, I'll decline.
So we have 2 nominees. We have Chris and Heidi. Now, for the ballots. No. Affirmative vote. Ms. Heidi Bach has been elected our board clerk. Congratulations. Again, I want to thank all of you for this first portion of our reorganization meeting to ensure that we have our officers in place. Again, our board president will this year will be Lynn Worley, board vice president Liz Heimer-Rollin, treasurer Jason Wadier, and clerk Heidi Bach. That brings a close to our voting portion of offer for officers. That then transitions us into.
We have to motion.
Oh, yeah, you have to actually make this official.
Meeting.
Can we read the motion?
Yes.
And Shake his neck.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Morris.
It is recommended that the following persons be elected officers of the Wauwatosa School Board in accordance with policy 0152 for a term beginning tonight and ending in April 2026, and I so move. President, Dr. Lynn Worley, Vice President, Liz Heimer-Rollin, Treasurer, Jason Watier, and Clerk, Heidi Bach. And it is recommended the superintendent be appointed to act as secretary to the board, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Bach? Yes. Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Heimer-Rollin?
Yes,
Dr. Worley?
Yes.
Mr. Wadier?
Yes.
and that motion passes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So release. You don't have to. Okay.
I don't really need to.
Visual fairs.
Do you want?
If you would like,
materials at
I
least?
think this is a good time
I have-
to,
Good old packet.
I think we printed the same packet for everyone.
Okay.
So typically, just as we're debating here, if people are watching, typically the board president sits here at this position of the table. Doesn't necessarily have to be this position, but it's really a preference call.
It's fine.
People.
Take it away.
We can change to another meeting.
Okay, very good. But now we will officially have Dr. Worley preside over the meeting. So Dr. Worley, the microphone is yours.
Thank you. So we now have a couple other roles to be filled. So we would we'd like to go to action to appoint the CISA representative. I have not served in that role, but I believe Dr. Means you might be able to describe it, or somebody else who's, don't think anyone's here who served in it.
No, ma'am.
Important, it's very important because it connects us to other districts.
CISA, just for observers, stands for Cooperative Educational Service Agency. We are in the seat, there's a number of different CISAs across the state of Wisconsin. We are in CISA 1. And that highlights the Milwaukee metropolitan area. CISA has an annual convention every year where there's a representative expected from each school district to be present. CISA serves our school district in providing a number of different services, mainly through Mr. Pinion's Pupil and Family Supports team. They host a lot of different alternative education opportunities for our families and students, but they also offer a number of different services. And so keeping up to date on what services are provided through the CISA is really critical. That's the.
There's a monthly meeting, if I remember correct.
It's a monthly meeting.
So we have an opportunity to hear from board members of who would like to do that. It can be someone who's sitting as an officer or someone who's not.
Can share with you that school districts typically don't have a member attending every monthly meeting of CISA. And the attendance is sporadic at best. But being available to be the representative of the school board to the CISA is really important. You may have heard through my language, there is an annual meeting where if for nothing else, it's critical that we have someone at that annual gathering of all the CISA districts.
Are we able to nominate someone?
Yes, you are.
Can I nominate Mr. Bauer?
I accept.
I'll second.
If there's no other.
We have a nomination, so now what we'll do is we will have Sarah, you are actually listed to just read it. If you look, new
So
board members, yeah, you can look on your screen or you can look at printouts and
I
go ahead and
circled
read
it. So it is recommended that the school board appoint Chris Bauer as CISA representative, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Will you please read the roll, please? For the vote.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach. Yes. Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Roland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Congratulations and thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So we move on to letter C, action to appoint policy committee members. I guess I would ask at this point, would you all like to talk about all the committees at one time, or would you like to go through? Because then we could do the votes. I just remember when I came on, I found it kind of helpful to hear about all of the committees, and then we kind of did a sharing of what we might be most interested in or second most interested in.
Motion that we hear about all the committees prior to taking action on anything.
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach. Yes. Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Roland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Morris, could you say a little bit about policy? You've been on it for 2 years.
Yes, 2 years in, have not run away screaming. I will say for the new board members and existing ones here, if you haven't been on policy, I was apprehensive going into it. What you don't know, I tell people this, the policy committee is where you learn probably more about what the school board is and what it's not, as well as understanding how school organizations work from the lens of what's from the state, what is specific to our district. I think that's very important. So I would say that for everything that we do, the policy committee really does become the foundation of a lot of things that you learn and how you grow in these things. Nothing against any of the other committees, finance is finance, all the things we have to do, and the other ones are specific to those, but policy wraps around all of them. Because we're going to talk about policy exhaustively in some cases. I'm sure everyone, both in the room as well as here at this table, has heard a lot of the policy conversations we've had about many things over the last 3 years prior to me getting on here, but everything from curriculum to finance to referendums, all these things come into play and policies at the base of it. So I would say that if you really want to understand what we do and how we make the biggest difference, it's a firm understanding of policy.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for that description. Let's talk about the Legislative Advocacy Committee. But we don't have people who've most recently served on it. But Dr. Means, you've been working with them the last few months. Would you be willing to say a little bit about what they've typically been doing?
The Legislative Advocacy Committee is a group of board members who pay close attention to local, state, and federal policy that is going to impact the Wauwatosa School District. We haven't had a chance to talk deeper at the local level, but that local level is significant since we are such a major thoroughfare for the county of Milwaukee. And since there's so many county facilities in Wauwatosa, we haven't recently had to deal with local issues either with the city of Wauwatosa or with the county, but that is something. Obviously, we pay a lot of attention to state funding and issues impacting the state legislature. different coalitions across either our community here in Wauwatosa or across the region or state. So that's another major component of that committee.
Some examples, there've been a few resolutions that have come up to the board recently. There's also typically at least once, if not more, times during the legislative season that while legislative advocacy members don't have to go, but they have sometimes gone to meetings in Madison. It's not a requirement, and it actually can be any board members, but driving that. And there've been some really, I think, very helpful educational events that legislative advocacy has also held over the last couple of years and going into now looking at the next biennial budget, giving the board a connection to that, helping community members understand how they can be involved in legislative advocacy. It's also what I've seen the committee do in past years, and I think it's all extremely valuable. Okay, so the third committee is the Finance and Resource Committee.
Yeah, I spoke to this a little bit when we were talking about the role of treasurer. Time-wise, you meet once a month for 2 hours. Those are open to community members. Rarely do we have a community members join. And then it's working with Mr. Eckert to just make sure the agendas are set and, you know, making recommendations from maybe what you hear from staff or community members, what you'd like to add onto the agenda. But it's pretty straightforward. You learn a lot. And I loved serving on that committee, so only good things to say about it.
Thank you, Liz. I guess I could clarify too, we didn't really say this, but typically we have 2 board members on each. The Finance Committee is 1 in addition to the treasurer. That's the committee information. There is one other appointment, but I'm going to hold on that because it's not a committee. I'd first like to see us distribute ourselves through the committees and think about if there. I open a moment if there's one that you're particularly excited about that you would like to serve on. I think that would be helpful. It's not just like with the CISA, it's not a full board vote. It is, it is, usually the action of the president, but I would just say, I want you to be serving where you feel you fit well. And at the same time, as a group, we have to cover all of those committees and make sure that that we have board members on them so that they can take action and do the work they need to do. So I'm going to skip you, Jason, because yours is a given, but I'm just going to go around and just see in a first round. Sarah, is there one that you have a preference for? If not, that's okay as well.
The policy and the legislative ones really call to me more.
Thank you. Heidi?
I would say policy and legislative also.
Okay. Liz?
I would say finance and resources.
Given my druthers, I would like to be on the legislative and or finance.
Okay.
But I serve at your whim.
And Phil?
I'm going to say legislative advocacy committee.
Okay. So I should have taken notes. Policy, legislative, finance.
Yeah.
Legislative for finance and legislative. I guess I will suggest that Liz continue on the finance since that was the one choice and like to see, you be on a committee. If that's okay with you, Mr. Bauer, then we have 4 interested in legislative. So I'm just going to go around again and except Phil said he's only interested in legislative. But we know you have a lot of experience with policy too, that you would survive another 2 years if 1 year if necessary. Any other indications? A couple of you said, you really would be either
I'm happy doing policy because I trust that you'll make some decisions.
Sarah, on policy, Heidi, are you willing to go with the policy?
Yes.
And then we'll do legislative for both of you.
Fine. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So then we need to go through each of these actions. So Christopher, yeah.
Are you gonna stop at E or are you gonna continue to go through?
I wanted to do the committees and then we'll do the next
Okay.
one, if that's okay, just because I want to make sure we were all distributed on the committees. I mean, we could wait and do them all at the same time, but I just thought we'd go through these and mark them off.
That makes a lot of sense.
Chris, would you go ahead and still read the one to appoint our policy, which would be Sarah and Heidi?
It is recommended that the school board appoint Heidi Bach and Sarah Bazinski as policy committee members, and I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll call that for Mr. Morris. We have fun with this, so you gotta have fun once in a while. Ms. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach. Yes. Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
And so the motion passes. And we'll go on to legislative advocacy. Heidi, would you go ahead and read that one? It will be Mr. Morris, Mr. Bauer.
It is recommended that the school board appoint Philip Morris and Chris Bauer as legislative advocacy committee members, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's getting the hang of it. Getting the hang of it. All right, Ms. Summers, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion passes. We'll move on to the motion. Phil, if you could read this one as listed to appoint our Finance and Resource Committee members.
It is recommended that the school board appoint Liz Hammer-Rowland and Chris Bowers, Finance and Resource Committee members, and I so move.
No, just Liz Hammer-Rowland, and then Jason is automatic. Let's go ahead and put de facto.
Let's go back. It is recommended that the school board appoint Liz Hammer-Rowland and de facto Jason Latier as Finance and Resource Committee members, and I so move.
I have a second.
Second.
Goes to Liz, and Ms. Summers, could you call the roll?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion passes. So we have one more action for roles. So the action to appoint the ex officio member to Curriculum Council. And Curriculum Council, has anyone served? I mean, I know what they do, but the role of the board member in that is to come to the meetings and to have also communication electronically or by phone with those council members.
Yes, it's very similar to being on the Finance and Operations Committee in that what Mr. Acker depends on those committee members to do is to translate some of the information that he's presenting to your fellow board members at board meetings. When Dr. Marble and the Division of Academic Performance are presenting curricular changes or the potential of changing things, the ex officio member to the Curriculum Council is someone that we will look to give deeper insight on what is being presented by district administration.
Thank you.
And there may be times, I think the best example may have been during our adoption of the Human Growth and Development curriculum, where Leanne Fraley was the ex officio member at that time. And so she just kept the board members aware during the development of that curriculum. So there wasn't a surprise and you were hearing it from a fellow board member. And so that's the other advantage of having an ex officio member.
Do you know, is the consistent time of frame of meeting the council so that people can consider that?
I don't have,
Okay.
I know they do meet on a routine basis, and I believe it's typically on a board meeting night prior to our actual meetings. Sometimes you'll notice that there are a lot of people walking down the hallway. They're coming from curriculum council. I can get that date.
That's fine. I just like to give people that information, to see if there's someone that is particularly interested or driven. I noted that we don't have the subcommittee for sustainability board liaison on this list tonight.
Sure.
So just to note that that is also another appointment, but we'll have to do that at a later.
It'll have to start at the
At the
finance and
committee.
operations
Right.
committee. And then that committee will bring it, I mean, procedurally to know.
Right,
too.
right. That's what I
But
figured.
yes, you're right. That we can't forget that one either.
Is there anyone who's interested in the curriculum committee?
Would be interested if none of the other board members are interested to give them an opportunity.
Okay. I'm still interested in staying on sustainability. That's fine. Then.
It was, yeah, I think you could, right? President,
Yes.
Anyone else? Liz? Okay.
Well, Ms. Roland and I were talking earlier. Ideally, we always want to have two members on committees, ideally, because the board president, to your point, the board president serves as ex officio to any.
That's true.
Committee.
So we probably should, yeah, we should.
So that's the other reason why you want to try to stay at two if you can. So you're always, the board president's always.
Absolutely. Always can step in if one of you can't make.
And again, to go back to my statement earlier, in terms of one position is not more important than any other. When we post all these committee meetings, if there's something interesting that you want to observe or you want to hear for yourself, you can always attend these meetings. That's why we post them. So then it's legally meeting the threshold of gathering.
Okay. Well, is there someone who'd like to read this because Liz was assigned it, but I think Phil, thank you.
It is recommended that the school board appoint Liz Hamel-Rollin as ex officio member to the curriculum council, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, would you read the roll, please?
Ms. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Rowland?
Yes.
Dr. Worley?
Yes,
Mr. Wadier?
Yes.
and the motion carries. So if you would move on to letter G, we're not done yet. So we also need this evening to appoint an expulsion hearing panel and alternate board member for the first semester. So this would be starting in August. Don't we usually end in July and start in August, if I remember?
You know, we say for the first semester of the 25-26 school year, it may be healthy to state as of July 1st.
That would be preferred.
Yes.
Yeah, because we were January to through June, so that would be a more even.
Yes, just to give more
split.
coverage.
So we need to have two, right, plus an alternate. Three and an alternate. Thank you. So
And just for a background sake, if I may, Dr. Worley, the board, I think we're in our second year of utilizing a panel model. In the past, the Wauwatosa School District would simply do an all call to all 7 board members to say who's available for an expulsion hearing. We moved to a panel. This is our second year of utilizing this model. This is a model where most districts have identified board members who serve in that role for a semester. And unfortunately, there are times where students make poor decisions, and then the board, through an expulsion hearing, has to make a decision on what the future of their educational services look like. That's the purpose of an expulsion hearing itself. The goal is to have 3 individuals who understand the process, who understand some of the language that Mr. Pinion and his team will utilize in a hearing to keep things fluid. And I'll defer to Mr. Pinion if there's anything that I missed.
No, I would just
to summarize, say this is, we have an annual resolution for the panel and it makes things smoother, more efficient in terms of timelines, processing through all the paperwork. And it's a little bit more sensitive to the student and family when it's not a full board. Know that though, the case does then come back in front of the full board for final approval, not necessarily to go into all the nuances, but for that official order.
That's a great point. Thank you, Luke. Just because we have a hearing panel doesn't mean that the other 4 members don't have the ability to really review and ask questions of what happened with the disposition of a case. Thank you.
So I will, at this point, ask if there are school board members who would like to serve in the first term. We typically do flip that over in January as best we can. And so is there anyone who would like, yes, you'd like to serve?
And for anybody there, it's the way that, and I think this is I don't even know how long I've been
You've been doing it a lot, yeah.
But it is very informative of when we have to have these. Mr. Pinion and his team, it's seeing the process from a disciplinary piece there is, and then also learning the legal side of all the papers. You're not there alone. And it is very well put together, and you come out having a greater understanding of the tough decisions that get made, but the depth that we go, so that it's one where none of this happens instantly. It's like this quick thing. There's a lot that goes into it. And by the time it gets to the panel, you are very well informed, and there's an entire process for the evening. I mean, we luckily haven't had too many, but it has been very informative. But I think it rounds out the process.
Question. When they do happen, are the hearings during the day, evening, like typically what is the, what would someone need to have for availability each time?
They're typically scheduled in the evenings, so we tend to work around the board's schedule for the panel members, but generally in the evenings, and sometimes they come in clusters. Again, we've had a really great year, not to jinx anything, but yeah, it's been as needed.
31 days.
So Jason, you're.
Yeah, I just think it's available.
I would be willing.
That's 2.
3.
Oh, and 3. We need an alternate.
Alternate. Sarah.
And Sarah, would you be willing to serve as the alternate?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's great.
Okay. And I have someone.
It is recommended that the school board, I guess I'm on it.
Heidi, will you read? This one, I'll help you with the names if you want. Phil Morris, Jason Wadier, Chris Bauer, and alternate Sarah Brzezinski.
It is recommended that the school board appoint an expulsion hearing panel.
Phil Morris,
Phil Morris,
Jason Wadier,
Jason Wadier,
Chris.
Chris Bauer, and an alternate board member, Sarah Brzezinski, for the first semester of the 2025-2026 school year.
May
And I
have a-
so move.
Thank you. May I have a second? It's okay to second your own nomination.
Second.
Ms. Summers, will you please call the roll?
Just for tech, we didn't add in the motion, July 1st, 2000.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Oh,
Good catch. Thank you.
So Heidi's gonna.
For the first semester starting, how about, can you read that for the first semester of the 2025-26 school year starting July 1st, 2025?
We have to have a motion, to add that language in.
I'll make a motion to add the language at the end of the sentence, beginning July 1st, 2025.
I have a second. All right, so this time we're voting just on the addition. Thank you. Yes. Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
yes.
Ms. Hammer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion carries. So now we're going to vote on the motion with the names and the addition of the specific start date. Ms. Summers, can you call the roll?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Hammer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Okay. So now we transition to a more typical meeting.
Dr. Worley, may I, before we transition, you all deserve a round of applause. What you've done, I think I had a conversation with Ms. Simon Rollin last week where she said, "Are you sure we're going to do this all in one in the same meeting?" Typically, this would have been done in a meeting, a workshop type of meeting where you could have had a very more casual conversation and you could have had the discussion that you had. And then you could have walked away and then you could have then come back to a meeting. You've done it all in one setting. As we said, the circumstances are unique with how positions were set up with the last board moving into tonight where there were no board president or vice president. So thank you for starting the meeting. Lynn, thank you for jumping in. But you all deserve just your willingness to be flexible is commendable, and we thank you for it. And I would be remiss if I didn't thank Ms. Summers for her organization of the ballots for the election. You tried to color code it for me, but in all seriousness, thank you. This was as smooth as it could get, and we appreciate it and look forward to a good year.
Thank you, Mr. Means, and thank you for facilitating the election part of the meeting as well. And then, of course, sometimes people wonder what happens to those ballots. So could you let folks know what happens?
It's a public record. They're all public records. We procedurally don't read the vote total for who wins because that's not really relevant. That's why you heard me use the language in the affirmative. But all of it, if there was ever an open records request, all of the information is right here.
Exactly. That's what I want people to know.
Yes, no, appreciate that.
The ballots stay
Yes.
and are filed. Okay, so we'll move on to number 4, the consent agenda. And I think after the consent agenda, maybe if folks would feel the need for a 5-minute stretch break, we could do that. So consent agenda, when we have these items on the consent agenda, just so that many people probably know this, but just so we're all on the same page, the first thing that I will be asking is if there's any items that are on the consent agenda that someone would like to remove. There is no stigma to asking for something to be removed. You're welcome to do that. And it's a perfectly good process. If not, that's fine too. But we'll use the following, votes based upon that discussion. So we've had many times when they've been removed and sometimes when nothing is removed. So I'm going to ask, are there any items on the consent agenda which board members would like to remove for separate discussion and action? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mr. Wadier?
It is recommended that the school board approve the consent agenda, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Harmar Rolland?
Yes.
Dr. Worley?
Yes.
Mr. Wadier?
Yes.
And the motion carries. I do want to note, as we often do, that we have a couple of gifts that were on the consent agenda, and I just want to express our thanks to the gifts that have been given to Wauwatosa West High School twice. 2 gifts.
Trojan green bleeds hard. Thank you to that's right, class of the class of 1964 and the class of 1969. They provided sizable gifts, and we do appreciate it. So.
And one of them is going to a mural that I have gotten a chance to see a picture of that done by a local artist. So again, we express our thanks for gifts and appreciate the continued support of our alumni.
Can I ask a question about that mural?
Sure.
Is there a place where other people can see what that mural is? Just out of interest, what it's going to be. It's exciting.
I think it is.
Communication plans about it. I know there's been one post about it so far.
There's been one post. I'm not quite sure what Wes plans to do when the mural is completed. We'll definitely make you aware when it is complete. But
I propose the journalism department put together a wonderful multimedia.
I will talk to Mr. Gala and see how we will continue to communicate it out.
Yeah, it's in the commons, it's in a very noticeable space. And I suspect our West students are very excited.
I'm sure there's some plans for ribbon cutting and sort of ceremonial.
We know how to throw a party.
Yes.
I sense a little bit of competition here, but I'm sure East will get some gifts soon as well, especially after tonight. So thank you. Was there anything else general that anyone wanted to say about the consent agenda? Okay, so just want to express that thanks on behalf of the district and the board. So we will take how about 8 minutes or so? I can't actually see the.
I have 7:43.
7:43. So let's start again at 7:50. So that's 7 or 8 minutes. Please take care of yourselves for any needs for stretching or bio needs that you need. So we will move to agenda item number 5, strategic goal 6, operations. This is a report. It does not include an action.
I will try and be both efficient and deliberate, given that we have some new board members and I don't want to skip past right anything. If you feel like I need to circle back anyone, please just let me know. I'm happy to go back to another slide or previous slide or spend more time on the current slide. So our fiscal year runs July to June. That means that we are 3/4 of the way through the school district, through the I think, Corey, this is the wrong. It's not what I have. Not what I have.
Need April.
Need April, that's March.
Yeah. I understand. Sorry, I sent this when I was on vacation, so
Take your time.
you even said while the break was going on, I should get prepared. I think the only slide that's different is the executive summary slide. Let me just. Corey, I'm gonna can we take a pause for a second while I send it right away? I can actually, if we or docs.
As I say, it should be whatever one was posted to board docs. That's what we want to. That's the same one. It's on. I whether it was if it goes before that.
Here we go. Okay, this looks a little better, I think. So we are 3/4 of the way. We just finished the third fiscal quarter. We cut off our school and department discretionary spending on April 1st. That's consistent with the norm in this district, pretty consistent statewide within a week or two. What that means, that doesn't mean no one can buy anything anymore. What it means is we've cut off the discretionary funding. So if someone had planned, say, for instance, I'll give you an old example from when I first started in the field. I had a librarian that was saving up money to buy like 50 VCRs at the end of the year. Those were the types of things that should have been purchased earlier in the year, not at the very end of the year.
VCRs.
Yeah. Remember those? Mhm.
No.
Imagine Netflix, but you had to plug something in. So discretionary spending has been cut off, but essential spending continues on. Our revenues, as they have all year, are trending very well. The only thing I'm really watching is our local revenue. Most of our revenues, are essentially guaranteed via state funding or local property tax. Within our local revenue, though, things like student fees, gate receipts, interest income, those are the things that can be variable. So those are the ones we're keeping our eye on. All of our expenses have been, the budget's been updated to reflect what the board approved in February. And I'm going to get to purchase services in a second, but that's the main area that we continue to keep our eye on, which is kind of becoming a broken record at this point as far as expenses go. So what we're looking at here is we've got, we always start out with our revenues, and these are sort of dashboards, right? So the top half is a dashboard of revenue in February, and the bottom is March. And the two key things we're looking at on each of these kind of speedometers is what was the actual. So in February, our actual revenues were 43.69% of our budget. And we're comparing that to what would have been projected. And the projection is based on an algorithm using the last 5 years of data. So we look at every month and what's happened each month typically. So we can see in February, we were slightly ahead, roughly 5 points ahead on overall revenues. And that came about 4 points in local and 7 points in state. Again, our revenues almost always track exactly as they should. So if we're ahead or behind, it's typically because we coded something on March 1st instead of February 28th one year, something like that. So we can see in March, we're still ahead, both overall and then also in our local and state. So that's the super high level view. This next view is essentially the same information, just kind of presented in bar graph instead of a pie graph. So here we are breaking down our general fund. So that's all of our operations compared to our, sorry, I don't know how to get rid of this. There we go. Compared to our special education funds. So those essentially are our two main operating funds. Anything that isn't funded from special education, we have to fund from the general fund. So that takes place via a transfer. So among all of our special education dollars, say roughly 30% are funded by either state or federal revenue, and 70% are funded by our general fund. Overall, you can see again, right here, the light blue line is the budget for revenues. The purple line is where we actually are. And the green line is where we were projected. So again, we can see, obviously we haven't collected all our revenues yet, or we'd be way up here at the top of the budget. But we are ahead of the projection. The purple being above the green means we're ahead of projection. And again, on the left-hand side is last month, and the right-hand side is the current month. This is just one more view then. So now we're breaking down, going from fund level now to source level. So where the money's coming from. And again, you can see our primary dollars come from local. So that's property taxes. Secondary is state, and then federal a little bit, and then almost nothing in other. So again, we're essentially tracking ahead in all of those right now. In this case, the purple being above the red. Any questions on revenues before I pivot to expenses? Okay, so
You have a question there.
oh,
It sounds like, and it seems this whole year that we're not in a worrisome territory, but what would seem to you to be a worrisome deviation from projections in either direction?
Yeah, so that's the question that's often people will say on these expenses, I see that we're at 52% and we're projecting 50%. So is that material or not material? The answer is a little bit in the eye of the beholder. If I'm more than 2%, one way or the other, I'm really digging into things. The reason I say it's in the eye of the beholder is it also depends on the month. So if it's August and we're just 2 months into the school year and we're off by 6-7% because we made, let's say we did a roofing project or something, as long as I can identify and then report to the board why it is that there's a variance, I think that's far more important than what the percent variance is. So now we're moving on to expenses. The good news here is everything is read the same. So it's laid out the same, whether it's revenues or expenses. So again, last month is on the top, current month is on the bottom. One thing I want to point out is we have all year long, we've been trending slightly ahead on the expense side, but we are narrowing the gap. So to me, that's the main takeaway this month. You can see the gap in February was about 2%, and the gap now was at roughly 1.5%. So I'm happy to see we're narrowing that gap. A lot of that is coming from both the board updating the budget as well as us cutting off spending to get a handle on those things we need to get a handle on. You can see our salaries and benefits. So that's, 70-75% of all of our expenses are tracking within 0.1% of where we would expect. So extremely happy about that. And I'm going to be talking briefly momentarily about personal services. That falls into this bucket over here. And that is why we're turning ahead there. Okay, again, this is just another look. Again, we've got prior month on the left, current month on the right. And really the key here is how close are the purple and blue lines? Purple being where we currently are, blue being where we expected to be or projected to be. I suppose ideally on the revenue side, you'd want your current above your projection, and on the expense side, ideally the current below the projection. Really, we're looking for just how close are they? So we can see it's a pretty tight variance there. And now we're breaking this down on the expense side, we call it by object. So on the revenue side is source, meaning source of revenue. The expense is which are those, what is it we're buying essentially? So we can see our salaries and benefits. Again, we knew those are tracking almost exactly on, and so we can see the blue and the red are like right on top of each other. And here's the area we've been watching all year long, these purchase services that are trending or actually slightly ahead of the projection of the trend. So the key then is, I'll be talking in a second about digging into that to tell you what that is. For those of us that like numbers with graphs, we provide those as well. So this first chart is showing us last year, so through March 31st on the left-hand side, 2024, is what we had either received on the top or spent here on the bottom versus where the year ended, okay? Which yields what percent was received or spent through the end of March. So for instance, we can see last year through the end of March, we had spent 65% of where the year ended. And this year we've spent 64.98% of what's budgeted. So again, the other thing that I'm looking for is how close are these percentages together? Because that's going to tell us how accurate our projection is. Again, the one that is most off base right now, or the one I'm watching most closely, is our purchase services. And we can see that is about 4.5% variance there.
Mr. Eckert, in your bottom there for looking at both those and your other objects and transfers, looking from the prior year to date to the prior year actual, Why such a gap between, or kind of give us a breakdown of the 400,000 versus the 12 million?
Sure. This is the transfer to Fund 27. So we don't, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Fund 27 expenses are also buried in salaries, benefits, and purchase services. We don't make the transfer until the end of June when we know what our total expenses are, because the state requires us to end that budget at a $0 fund balance. So the special education fund always has a $0 fund balance. Great question. So every year we're going to see almost no activity here until June. Okay, now these are our expense projections. So again, this is putting numbers to those graphs. The top is February, and these are our main expense categories, and the bottom is March. So quickly, I'm always looking for red, what's going on in red. You can see in February, we had a negative variance, slight negative variance in salaries, slight positive variance in benefits. Now you can see in March, we're actually overall, when we add those two together, we're in a positive place. That's why I've got that little thumbs up there. And then I've got a yield sign here by our purchase services. Again, that's the thing that I've been looking at every month. And we've talked about it at the board at quite length, actually. So something I added to this report around, I would say, December-ish is this is the first year this software has been used. So what I added in is what would this report have looked like for the board last year had this software been available? So what we're looking at on the top half is both of these are through March. The top half is last year, if the software had been being used and reported to the board, you would have seen a projected negative variance of about $8.3 million. So again, this is meant to be an early indicator, right? So there's no surprises. This year, we're at about a negative 1.6. And again, most of that is purchase services. So I'm going to talk about that briefly, I think, on the last slide here. Yeah. So these are the areas I'm still concerned about. And I'll start at the bottom and work up because our substitutes are now trending the right way. So we have been able to really put our brakes on, I wouldn't say the usage of subs or the fill rate of subs. Those things we've been able to maintain. It's things like things more under the district control, like when we pull people out of classrooms. And so that has really helped us key in our sub budget. Legal fees we've talked about all year as something that frankly, the top three things were under budgeted. And I have little control over them. Special ed transportation, we only transport kids who have an IEP that requires transportation. And we have emergency maintenance needs that go beyond our deferred maintenance or capital improvement plan. So an example would be we had essentially a flood into the theater at the East High School. That would be an emergency maintenance item that we have a budget for emergency maintenance, but depending on how many emergencies they are, you either have enough or you don't. So the two areas right now that I believe are going to end over budget are the emergency maintenance and the special ed pupil transportation. I believe this is the last year that's going to happen. I've shared with the finance committee and maybe at the board level, myself and Jess Hinker have now gone through every line item of the budget. We have about 13,000 line items. I've got a much better handle on what's actually there now since she and I are the ones putting the numbers there. These four areas, I'm going to say I'm right sizing for next year. So when I look back at our history, I can see how much we typically spend, for instance, on special ed pupil transportation. That should be about what we budget. It shouldn't be less. When I looked at the budget for this year, it was less than what we typically spend. So we're right sizing these things so we don't end up over budget anymore. The effect that's going to have, though, is that's going to reduce the discretionary funding available, right, for toward overall expenses. I mean, it would be easy for me to say, well, I'll just leave the special ed budget at $500,000 less and tell the board, hey, good news, we can put 500,000 more in fund balance. But that wouldn't, it would be artificial. I'd rather give you a true picture and budget at the true level so that we know what we can actually expect during the school year. And when we're looking at these variances, we should see them even tighter next year.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ecker. We'll entertain questions from board members. Mr. Wyatt?
So Mr. Ecker, the legal fees, kind of, we all know that we don't necessarily have full control over that. Where are we at this year in comparison to years prior, even if you were to have done a regressive budget?
So the last year and the year before, we're tracking like we were the last 2 years. So in my mind, that creates a pattern. I feel comfortable budgeting to that level, more so than it would have been 3 or 4 years ago. It'd be great news if we don't spend it all, right? And then that money can go to fund balance or some other initiative. I would add, the other benefit of having to go through every line item has yielded some efficiencies too. And I'll give you an example today. It's not much, but the reason I'm giving this example is because we really are looking at everything. We use BMO as our bank. Banking fees are pretty high for businesses and school districts. Ours are about $5,000 a year. Now, we get interest income that offsets much of that, but just by renegotiating those fees, we're going to save $5,000. So, you know, on a $100 million budget, that isn't much, but sometimes people will say, well, what are you looking at ways that you can reduce expenses? I mean, we're finding like even little needles in a haystack to try and give back.
How would you split up the legal fees as far as rough estimate of what have we spent and what buckets are they spent on?
So we just asked Belo Vetter in, I believe it was December or January, to start codifying the expenses to, they're putting them in buckets of open records requests, labor, special ed, and other. So we hadn't asked them that before, so I don't have that information yet. But by the end of this year, we'll at least have 6 months of those buckets having been broken out.
If you had to guess, what would be your top spend there?
Mr. Waterman's indicated, Mr. Wadier, that our use of legal fees to redact and to review open record requests submissions is some of the highest that they have in terms of their clients.
Thank you.
Any other board members have comments or questions?
I do have a couple.
Go ahead, Mr. Bell.
It seems like you're starting to plan into 25 and 26 by talking about right sizing budgets and all of that. I wanted to make sure that this was already talked over with Ms. Zalazowski as they have developed the staffing plan so that all of that jives and we're not bouncing back and forth after we approve the staffing plan.
She and I are kind of like this in terms of building the budget and the staffing plan. About 2 weeks ago, we were both able to pinpoint the exact number of FTEs both on her spreadsheet and my spreadsheet. I think that's the first time in years that's the case.
Did you mind going into detail of describing what is Skyward? How does the spreadsheet that Ms. Zalazowski is going to review later this evening tie into Skyward and why it's so important from a financial standpoint that it's connected?
Yeah. So Skyward is our enterprise budgeting and payroll system. So when someone gets hired, they get put into the system via the HR side and also entered in payroll. So one area that Sarah and I are finding efficiency is a reason it was hard to match the FTEs in the past is we had dual data entry. So one person entering at HR, another person entering in payroll. I would find that Mr. Bauer is in HR as Chris and in payroll as Christopher. And when I'm trying to match things, unless I was looking at an ID, it was just causing issues. Things like maiden names, for instance, would come up pretty frequently that had been changed one place, not another place. So we're now able to, we're in the process of utilizing a feature in Skyward where we'll just have data entry one time that pushes through the whole system. So really what Sarah and I are working on this spring is kind of cleaning that, I'll call it dirty data, so that we can push it forward. And the nice thing about that is, so each person has a unique ID, they have a job code, it ties back to a salary schedule. So the system can look at the person, essentially when they were hired, were they on the schedule, and it matches what their pay is. So it gives us, we have sort of like 3 sets of security for budgeting now. One coming, frankly, a spreadsheet from my office that matches a spreadsheet from Sarah's office that we then tie off to Skyward's data.
And all of that goes into the budget that you have. The next step would be how many times is that data then audited? Like how your budget audited throughout the year?
Yeah, so from purely staffing, this will be, well, this is me and Sarah's kind of first year together, but my norm would be now when school year starts, because we're going to have, there'll be some people that leave and new people come, and it might be, who knows, there's a job, someone's spouse has a job change, they have to leave the district, we had to hire someone else. So I want to plug in the new person now or what their rate of pay is, but I don't do that every day. So I do that once in the summer so I can have everything up to date with and agree with Sarah again. And then probably wouldn't do it again until I have the board approve we will, like last year, we did an updated budget in, say, December-ish. So if there was material changes, we would update it then again.
Awesome. And then your budget itself and then how we are tracking is also audited multiple times.
So that's every month then. That's like what you saw here. So that we're getting a picture of every month.
By both internal and external entities.
The board will have to decide if they're going to continue with the external next year. We'll have that option, but we have this year.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Rickard, how long have we been using Skyward?
Skyward, I wouldn't know. Skyward's actually a Wisconsin company based out of Stevens Point. They have probably 98% of the Wisconsin market, but they are also prominent in at least 20 other states. So they're from a financial software, they're one of probably 2 or 3 kind of leaders in that space.
Yeah. I'm just curious on here because just from your statements, and it sounds like the progress we've made to get to here, we didn't have necessarily in the past of the way it's starting to match up and not only the right sizing, but using data that gets us here versus what we'd done prior to you or Ms. Selazowski and what the districts had. We wouldn't have known a lot of this for 5 or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But we have a foundation now using data to keep us on track to see these things well in advance to give you really good actionable data that you can plan with.
Yeah, the other benefit is the tools we're using now are replicable. So there was a time in probably most school districts where the only person that maybe had the budget or knew what it was a business official, at best in a spreadsheet, in the olden days on a ledger, and when that person left, it's like all that knowledge is gone. John Mack is a friend of mine, and he is exceptional. Like he could run circles around me in Excel and some of the stuff he did. But there was so much knowledge that he'd been here so long that we lost so much knowledge when he left. And it's taken us, so I'm sorry?
And in systems.
Yeah, yeah. So we've had to rebuild that knowledge and systems and putting it in place now that it's more easily replicable by relying on the software a bit more.
Mr. Moore, I always tell the story. I think everyone, John Mack is the former CFO, 3 CFOs ago now, and was here for many, many years. When I was in Ms. Zelazowski's role 20 some odd years ago, Mr. Mack and I would literally sit down with the staffing plan. At the time, it was a book. And we would go through it line by line with a ruler and pencil. So what we're describing now is that from a digital standpoint, Ms. Zelazowski and her team and Mr. Ecker and his team have done this. Your question is absolutely 100% accurate in that the level of accuracy we have now will make the estimates that we have to make with the 25-26 budget that much more refined.
Yeah.
Okay, take one more question, then I'll start wrapping up.
So just to reaffirm that, then if you were to become incapacitated for any length of time, your processes and systems would be easily assimilated by somebody else because you've now done the hard work. We are in a system that it sounds like we should have no problem finding somebody to at least be able to navigate interim, or maybe we have someone in-house that is able to do that. I just want to make sure we're not talking about this new process and giving it a lot of weight and forgetting about it, and then realizing I want to make sure we're decoupled from the person.
Yeah.
Well, you're great. So
I was like, it's like my job security. So the great news about Skyward is because it's used in almost every Wisconsin school district, that part is easy for just about anybody to pick up. The new monthly tool we're using, Jess is also trained in. So we now have backup systems in the business office too.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the report. We will move to strategic goals for high quality staff.
Good evening, all. Ready to share this? We're good. Okay. Very grateful for Corey staying with us during all of these meetings and his colleagues. I'm happy to be back in front of you this evening, going over for the second and final time our staffing plans for the 2025-26 school year. As we've discussed previously, these plans are really the culmination of developing a plan with Scott from a financial perspective on where we can be in the organization, working with our academic performance team and people and family supports teams, and building the supports that we want to provide for students in our schools, and then working with our principals and administrators on who we need to hire to make sure we have the right people in place when our students arrive in the fall. Since we met last time, the staffing plan has a number of updates. On literally Friday afternoon, we finalized, or at least preliminarily finalized, teacher placements. You've heard much conversation this evening related to transitions in numbers of sections by school. By virtue of being first in the alphabet, the example I pulled up for you right now is Eisenhower Elementary School, where again, we had some changes in sections based on projected class sizes. So we knew that with Mr. Stein redesign. We had to do some movement. There were 2 teachers that have other positions in the district, not at Eisenhower, for next year, based on what we projected to be the enrollment change. Again, just because our staff members don't have positions in one school, we've been very fortunate through attrition to go ahead and find positions for them in other places. And we work through that as carefully and supportively as we can. So the draft teacher staffing plan across all of our schools shows FTE as well as teachers who are, again, preliminarily in those assignments. We will continue to have some staffing changes, and we'll continue to have some movement as we move through the end of the 24-25 school year and through the summer. We are still finalizing that level of detail with the educational operational staffing plan, which are non-teaching positions, including education assistants, including administrative assistants, administrators, et cetera. I updated for you class sizes, primarily at the elementary level. In addition to the lockstep system that Scott and I are finalizing, I'm also working with Luke's team and the People and Family Supports Division, as well as our academic performance data team, to go ahead and have regular updates in terms of enrollment, interdistrict transfers, tuition waivers, et cetera. And so the accuracy of our enrollment data is never seen before. And we have, again, solid systems in place so that if any of us get hit by a bus, which I hope certainly that doesn't happen, the systems would be able to stay in place, and we would be able to successfully operate the organization and what our plans were moving forward. As you can see, over these last 3 years of comparative class sizes, we are still maintaining very small class sizes. We know that when we look at comparisons in the Milwaukee metro area, Wauwatosa boasts very small class sizes. Middle school and high school class sizes, again, we see the projected year ahead as well as the past 2 school years, very sound class sizes. In the staffing proposal, we've talked quite a bit about the FTE reduction that we proposed. This is a summary of where those FTE started. The primary reason for making these FTE reductions at the elementary and secondary schools was to go ahead and maintain the target class size that we established with the projected enrollment. At the district level, we again looked for, one of the areas is speech and language. We're seeing a significant decrease over the past 2 years in the number of students who require speech and language services in the organization. And so based on the recommendation from Director Stacy Clem, we were able to make a reduction in that space, as well as then other reductions, not only from a financial standpoint, but organizationally, how can we continue to be more efficient? Updates since we last spoke. I shared with you some of the teacher assignment updates that included the STEM for All elementary elective, which has been named Discovery Lab teachers. Those teachers have been placed and are assigned. There's a lot of excitement around that work, as well as in the FTE shifts that I mentioned earlier. We also have been continuing to monitor class sizes. And so as we see if class sizes are above what we would see as a preferred class size range, but not yet at the minimum class size of 15, we have added within our staffing plan educational assistants. I mentioned previously that we have a contingency of staffing that we can add as we see changes. Because of the addition of some educational assistants where needed, the contingency is around 2.0 FTE right now. So that has shrunk a bit, but we still have a contingency to address future needs as we see them. Finally, from a next step standpoint, our target is to have contracts in teachers' hands by May 15th. Our goal is to have letters of reasonable assurance in the hands of our hourly staff members right around Memorial Day. And then we'll also be bringing forward a proposal for you related to compensation for the 25-26 school year for our different employee groups between now and the end of the school year. We had one negotiation session with our Wauwatosa Education Association that represents our teachers, continuing to talk about when we look at total compensation, benefits, and salary, what is the preferred way to go ahead and offer that, to offer competitive benefits and competitive salary as well. So that is something that we'll be coming forth with. Are there any questions?
I have a lot of questions.
Great.
So I saw it in a report from the last meeting, but is the 1530 sort of guide used for our JK and SK students as well? So you need 30 students to create that second section in a school?
Yep. So minimum class size is used for all grade levels up through 12th grade of 15, again, as a minimum class size. In JK, we use a minimum class size of 12.
In capstone classes.
In capstone classes, thank you.
So if the minimum class size for JK is 12, then is the number that we need for another section 24, or is it still 30?
No, for JK, and again, capstone class sizes would be less than 15. So we would offer 2 sections when we reached 24.
I would just, I guess, I don't know, like propose or just put out there that I would like to see the threshold for senior kindergarten lowered as well. I think a lot of times our kiddos in SK are first time students in a school setting. We know that our teachers have a lot of extra work on their plates because of Act 20, especially in the, those early grades. So most of our schools have that small SK, but Underwood really stands out with that class of 28. That is a lot of 5 and 6 year olds in a room, and adding an educational assistant, that's a lot of bodies. That's a lot of little bodies. And it's loud. And so I don't know, I would just ask that we consider using the same threshold with SK that we do for JK. Preferably, for me, it would be like the first and second graders too, because of Act 20. I know it's unfunded mandate from the state, but there is just a lot of extra things on our early childhood teachers' plates because of it. So that 28 though really stands out at Underwood. I know it said if there's additional enrollment that it would be split, but that to me would be a great place to use that contingency as we get closer to the beginning of next school year.
Mr. Abdulmala also had the choice to trade in his 1.5 educational assistants to split that class. In speaking with him, he and we've been speaking regularly, he is confident that they will have the 30 to go ahead and split that into 15. And thank you, Ms. Heimer-Rolland. I certainly hear your request.
Sticking with that. Can you explain more of the thinking behind the August 15th date of not adding any additional teachers, even if an increase in enrollment would numbers wise make that?
Yeah, there are a couple considerations. One, and actually Dr. Means and I were just in a conversation today with a couple of our principals who elevated the first area that I would highlight. And one is that we've been very successful these past few years in hiring very high quality teachers. Part of the reason that we've been so successful in that space is that we have been very strategic in terms of when we've gone out to hire. So admittedly, I have pushed our teams to go ahead and have student registrations earlier than in the past, so that then we can look at enrollment data and staffing plans so that we can hire earlier. We're at least 4 weeks earlier in our hiring for teachers than we were when I started in the organization. And that has directly resulted in the quality of staff members and the quality of the candidate pools when we've been able to hire. So that's one. So once we start to get past July 15th, past the end of July, those candidate pools start to dwindle fairly significantly. And the top talent that we really want to hire is not as available. And I think that was elevated previously. The second is something that has really been highlighted over time as well. And that's that by hiring no later than August 15th, we're able to go ahead and have new staff members participate in our extensive onboarding process. And that's a really significant way that we're supporting staff members in being up to speed and ready to go at the start of the school year. Employees that are hired after August 15th have a much harder uptick or upswing to the start of the school year because they've not been able to engage in all of those very strategic, very intentional activities to prepare them for the start of the school year. We certainly try to do our best for those late hires. And based on the feedback we've had and what we've observed, we know it's just not the same experience. So those are the two primary reasons that we've set that August 15th date.
And maybe Mr. Pinunos, do we have a lot of registrations after August 15th typically?
I don't have the data in front of me, but we continue to get enrollments and registration later than we'd like. It has improved over the last 2 years though. Excuse me.
Thank you. And then I just have two more questions, if that's okay. Can you give a little bit more description on what the STEM Discovery Lab positions will look like in each building?
So I'm probably not the best person to go ahead and describe that. Ms. Jessica Ebert, our Director of Curriculum, has worked extensively not only with Sarah Blahosh, who is the Science Curriculum Coordinator, but our principals to go ahead and really envision what the Discovery Lab will provide to our elementary students. She would be way more articulate and give you a better picture of what that would be.
When you say what it looks like, what do you mean?
Yep. That's what I'm thinking from a staffing perspective. Is that going to be like a licensed teacher?
Oh,
sorry.
I misunderstood. So thank you for the clarification. I interpreted your question to be what's the classroom side going to look like? From a staffing perspective, way in my wheelhouse. From a staffing perspective, that is an elementary licensed teacher. We have a lot of flexibility in terms of what the certification can be. Typically speaking, and based on the amount of instruction that's provided to students at the grade level, that is a shared position across buildings.
The only thing, I think it would be great if some of our teachers in the STEM schools, if they, are they given priority for those positions, or are they put into the pool with other applicants for those positions? And have you considered giving any sort of stipend like we do with our DEI advocates in our schools for that position?
So the new Discovery Lab teachers are all individuals who are currently employed by us. We had, I think, of the 6 people who we've hired, 2 are coming from USTEM. So they are coming from that experience. It would be difficult for us to give them a stipend for their day-to-day job because they have chosen to take on a new course of study to teach. I had the chance to visit Roosevelt last week and met one of the teachers that we've hired for Discovery Lab that's a current classroom teacher who said, "I'm ecstatic that I'm going to be one of the new Discovery Lab teachers." And she was going on sharing with me that she shared with her family, who are all in the science, in the STEM world, that they couldn't believe that our school district was actually teaching this as a special for all of our children. So I think what we projected as what we were excited about in terms of candidates within applying for the job actually came true. We had more internal candidates than we had positions. Yeah. Is that accurate, Ms. Elizaski?
It is. And part of the reason we looked internally for candidates for that position was because we knew we have, great talent in our staff members. And 2, based on the shifts in FTE, we also wanted to go ahead and use attrition to go ahead and reduce sections as much as possible. And we've been successful. There are only a very few reductions that we're making. They're not at the elementary level.
The last thing I will just hope that we can find money in the budget eventually to have more than one academic and career planning coordinator, because I think that is an area that I am talking about all the time with Dr. Means, where I think that our district can improve with our career and post high school planning. So just, I wanted to throw it out there that if we could, find it in our budget to have two, at least, one at each high school, I think that would be fantastic. And thank you for all of your work on this plan. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Haverald. Anyone else? Sure.
Speaking on behalf of the strategic planning committee, I would totally echo what you're saying. One of our primary concerns right now has been really the lack of meaningfulness, for lack of a better term, in the ACP career portfolio. And I think we would all agree that a second coordinator would improve that.
Anyone else? Yes, Jason?
So at the end here, we're talking brass tacks, we're looking at 904.82 FTEs. So $90.4 million roughly.
I think that's probably a little high because there's about just under 300 of the FTE are non-teaching positions. But I think if you're throwing a dart at the board,
So
we're pretty close.
Our FTE measurement is variable, or
if you're equating it to dollars, so that the FTE is the flat number. If you're multiplying each FTE by $100,000 from a budgetary standpoint, I don't know if that, I haven't done the math to see if that's a.
just out of curiosity, how many FTEs did we have last for this current year? And I know, spot if you don't know, that's
About 15.5 more. We cut approximately 15.5 FTE. I did not write the number down.
It only stuck out to me because we've got the salaries and benefits budgeted for this year for roughly 84.3 million. And I see that I'm just doing the quick math, and I'm 904 and thinking, 90 million, where the $6 million added to it if we're just doing that. But you're saying, no, that's not. The 904 is not going to equate to 90 million. It's going to be underneath that.
Do you mind if I jump in?
Please.
Our overall salaries and benefits budget, I think, will be slightly less next year, if not maybe right around where the current year is, after the reductions in force due to open enrollment. What Sarah was saying is the average number that we use for a teacher with benefits is about $100,000. That's about, is it 627? Is that, and so the remaining
620, well, when it's all said and done, like 624, yeah.
correct. So
Yeah.
One of them I would multiply times 100,000. The other one probably some other number.
yeah, less. That's hourly people who range from summer school year only, for instance. And then there's obviously various ranges of pay too.
It's a much wider group in terms of like salary ranges.
But I appreciate, what Scott and I would say is that what you threw out there was the equivalent of what we call napkin math. And, when we always say the equivalent of a teacher position is $100,000, we understand how you've made that connection. It's just, that's difficult to do with the entire staffing plan.
Sure, but I think the community at large, we've been pushing that narrative, and any layman out there like myself would see 904, that's $90 million. That's a lot. So just to be able to say on record, no, the total overall FTEs you do not multiply in times 100,000 and get the budget. It's a little bit more complex than that. But if you want to do some napkin math for smaller numbers or regular teacher positions,
yes,
a fine estimate.
That's why if you notice what Scott and Sarah and I will always say, our we will say approximately 70 to 75% of our overall budget goes towards people and personnel. And that will continue to be the case. That's why this action item this evening is so important, because once we have a staffing plan, that locks in for Mr. Ecker's development, 70 to 75% of that entire 25-26 school year budget.
I have a couple questions as well, if no one else does. Mr. Eckert already alluded to the reason why we are having staffing cuts and reduction is the link to open enrollment and not necessarily over budgeting or anything having to do with the referendum or state funding. Is that accurate?
Yes.
That is also linked to the question that Ms. Heimer-Rolland indicated, is that we also locked in, if we're moving away from open enrollment to forcibly split classes, which has been the practice prior to this coming year, we're going to have to hold to the 15 to 30 classroom, like class size, right? And that is the fallout from that decision that was made by the board in January. And I'm not critiquing or trying to throw shade or anything. That's just the decision that was made. Okay. How is that being communicated to teachers? And it might be Ms. Tuttle that should be answering this, but how is that being communicated to families, teachers, staff in general?
So Ms. Tuttle and myself and our cabinet team has worked on some ideas to go ahead and help illustrate the staffing reduction and the reason behind it to staff members. So we'll actually, while I've been talking about it during all of my school visits, talking about it with our meet and confer groups, we are sending something, a more formal communication to staff members relating the reduction in FTE to the reduction in open enrollment and including tuition waiver students, so that there's more of a corollary as well.
Crystal ball time, like how does that look over the course of the next several years as we continue to wind down open enrollment?
May I?
Please, my crystal ball is notoriously bad.
Your crystal ball is cloudy.
Right.
So we appreciate the question, Mr. Bauer. Let me start by saying, when we discussed the communication, there's a perception in the community that there would be a windfall with the successful passage of the operational referendum. That's technically not 100% true because of the district's decision to invest in hiring more staff, specifically with our social emotional learning specialists, with the mental health specialists, with Mr. Ecker and I were reviewing where we made a lot of additions. Our special education teaching staff has grown by 20 to 24 staff over the last 3 years. And so that's had an impact on the transfer of money coming from Fund 10 to 27. All those different pressure points, in addition to historically, we were not budgeting for special education transportation, although we knew it was there. We were not budgeting for the overage that we would historically have in legal fees, but we were doing it anyway, or substitute teachers. And then the other component that I want to just make sure the community knows is that the demand that we were receiving, the board was receiving from staff of saying, we need compensation increases now. We need to split classes now. The fact that we used fund balance now means that when we short-term borrow, there is approximately, and I'll defer to Mr. Ecker if I don't get the number right, approximately $1 million additional fee that we're paying because we use fund balance. But the message we were receiving internally and externally was, we can't wait. We're losing staff. Our retention rates are really low. And so we tried to act. And I think when we met with the union last week, we indicated that on average in the last 3 years, the average salary increase is 26%
26% for teachers.
The average salary increase is 26%. So while we understand there's angst and there's going to always be angst in the organization, the The difficult part for us administratively is that we have heard people. We've given on average a 26% salary increase. We have the lowest class sizes based on Ms. Zelazowski's analysis of other class sizes in the metropolitan area. We've added positions to assist with school climate issues like deans of students and social emotional learning specialists. So we believe that we've been responsive. We know that the board, the language that you've used is you've made an investment. But just keep in mind, what Mr. Ecker and I would tell you from a financial standpoint is just keep in mind that that investment, we were in essence living as if we passed a referendum prior to the referendum passing. And so at some point, you have to pay back what you've utilized. And I think we've shared with you after the referendum passed in November, we continue to know that we have a plan to replenish the fund balance. But we just need to all make sure that the community knows that we have to, at some point, we can't continue to use the credit card. We can't continue to use the fund balance. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely. The last question I had, sorry, and this might be more of a question for Mr. Pinion, is the reduction of FTEs at Fisher level. A couple of them are combining responsibilities. How do we make sure that those responsibilities aren't being dropped or lost as we increase responsibilities of the leadership at Fisher? I'm sorry, but again, probably not a question for you. But.
May I start and then let Mr. I see he's pondering, so I'll start and then let him begin. We know that we made the tough decision, and I've talked about it at board meetings, that we've made the tough decision of having conversations with 2 district administrators ahead of their contracts concluding. That is not usual, but we wanted to get out ahead of the very loud call of we need to reduce the district administrative team. Those 2 reductions allows us to get back to our district administrative investment of FTE where we were during the 2021-2022 school year. The one position that has been identified of not continuing is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. And we do believe that that's a responsibility for everyone. And it was a tough decision because it was either reducing that position or eliminating the newly created Director of Student Success. It's really interesting that we just talked about adding a second academic and career planning coordinator because Dr. Daryl Hansen will be assuming that role on a temporary basis next year. But Emily O'Connor was a strong partner with Cindy Carter, who is our academic and career planning coordinator. That position we never had before. We never had someone who oversaw our counselors and our social workers. And so we do believe that by having that position, while we don't have a second academic and career planning coordinator, we do believe that when you have someone of Dr. Hansen's ability or Ms. O'Connor's ability, that does become what Malik referenced, which is everyone, adults, staff members, students are saying that we need to do a better job in providing academic and career planning for students, which is a mandate at the state level. We're supposed to have those plans in place for young people starting in the 6th grade. But Mr. Pinion, please take over.
That's hard to follow. I guess the short answer to your question, Mr. Bowers, is you do it very thoughtfully and you have to know the role. So know the work that they're engaged in, what it looks like, where their time is spent, days, nights, who their stakeholders are. So really understanding that. And as hard as these conversations are, doing them with care, compassion, and the utmost respect for what they've brought to the system and the change that they've made, and giving them some voice in that process too.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Okay.
Sorry, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Can I ask a question, please? So thinking about some frustrations that were voiced earlier today, when administrators make decisions about trades that they're going to make, How are those decisions made? Are they just made unilaterally by a building leader, or what sort of consultation or collaboration goes into those?
I would say that so we had several schools who had considerations like that to make. I think each one of the schools probably entered into that decision making a little bit differently, but the idea that there was collaboration with staff members who were involved, in do you want to teach a class of 28? Do you want to teach a class of 26? Whether it was, I think the examples that we have are SK. And then there's a 4th grade class as well. But so discussion, conversation, looking at the needs of the whole building. And while ultimately the principal in working with Dr. Means and myself, we're making the final decision, that principal is engaging the school community in that discussion.
I think the model, Sarah, that we're really proud of, which is something that we created this year, is we wanted to give principals the option. I think in the past, Sarah and I have put these plans together in multiple places, and it becomes the district staffing plan. And that's not a healthy place to be for any organization. So what we wanted to do is not to place principals in the middle, but we want to give them greater voice. And principals that are really skilled, they would say, thank you for that opportunity. And then they would go back to either their school leadership team or their faculty or both. And then they would also work in conjunction with their PTA or PTO leaders to keep them up to date. And we talked about Underwood earlier. Mr. Abdamala said, I'm not going to use that chip of an educational assistant. He said, instead, please give me a van, give me a school district van. I'm going to drive around the neighborhood and I'm going to knock on doors and I'm going to find those 2 kids. And then I'm going to force you, school district, to split the class. That was his perspective, right?
Absolutely.
Other principals said, no, I don't want to take that risk. I'm going to split this right now so I can reassure my community that we're in a good place. And so every principal is different. And I think candidly, I'm really proud of the fact that we empowered our principals to have those conversations and how, so Sarah, to your point, how they looked and how they were conducted looked a little different based on each person in terms of the diversity of the school community.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. The idea that we empower principals to be part of the decision making, to really look at the needs of their particular school and to hear, what their considerations are, has been very powerful. And again, it feels much better to go ahead and step back and say, hey, while we have to have, from a financial standpoint and a consistency standpoint for the organization, some method to how all of these decisions are made, you as principals have some autonomy and some empowerment to say, and this is what my building needs.
Even down to the August 15th dearbecue.
It was their choice.
I want to be very clear because I appreciate that question. In fact, I was at Arbor Day event with the mayor earlier today, and I was talking to a principal, and I said, I just want to make sure I'm going into a board meeting tonight. I want to make sure we're all on the same page on this August 15th deadline. And the principal said, absolutely. He said, in my experience, the only time, and we said it in unison, the only time you get a star teacher post August 15th is when someone is moving new to the community and they don't know how to get into applicant pools. And they happen to be an amazing teacher that wasn't either ready to teach yet or the timing wasn't right. It's for all the reasons that Ms. Zelazowski shared. Not only the candidate pool shrinks, but also you reduce the ability to onboard someone really well with the August 15th deadline.
So there are still options to make shifts with these, like these trades up to that August 15th deadline.
We've empowered principals to make these these decisions and they have the right to make those decisions. So yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
I think what we're hearing from principals is that they've made their decisions. They've engaged their school communities, which then Sarah says this better than I do. Anytime you have a staffing plan, there will always be one school that has the highest class size. And we wish we don't have an unlimited amount of funding to address it we can bring it. Even if we brought it down to a certain level, there will always be someone who will be the highest. And so that's tough. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, and partially what we've heard in the community is part of the factors that led us to utilizing fund balance. It was part of the factors that led us to, there's a level of urgency of people wanting us to act maybe prior to the passage of a referendum, because I think there is angst and anxiety to a certain degree. And so what Mr. Egger would say, the language he would use is, and this is where applying fiscal discipline, this is what it looks like. And it's uncomfortable at times. And the path of least resistance for us administratively and for you as a board would be to say, yes, that would be the path that we would all prefer. But as a community, being heard doesn't mean that we have to agree. Being heard means we've heard you. Here's the logic of why we can't address your request. And it doesn't mean that we didn't hear you or that the position that you're sharing with us is not a valid one. It's just that administratively, let me say it very clearly. And I'm the first to tell you, I would love to say yes to everything.
Right.
And I think the board would like to say yes to everything. And it's uncomfortable for us to say no, but what we've learned is that we do have a really good handle on where we are now financially. We do have a really good handle on our staffing plan now. And what that's going to necessitate is us being tight. The last thing I'll say, I know Dr. Worley wants us to move on, but what I would say is this, and you may have heard it, but for new board members, there was a perception in the past, and it had a name in the organization internally, where staff members have told Mr. Ecker and Ms. Zelazowski and I that in the past, there was something called poof. And what would happen is people knew that if you just advocated just a little bit harder, if you just asked one more time, that district leader, the people that were in our seats prior to us, there was something called poof, to the point where our predecessors would put contingency to the side to then say yes to everything. When we are now in this position where we don't have poof, and we can't say yes to everything, that doesn't mean that we don't see the value in it. It just means that we're trying. It's really ironic. This past summer, when everyone was saying be fiscally more conservative and focused, this is what it looks like. And so we're prepared to do it. We don't take pleasure in it because we know we're disappointing some people, but we know that all the excitement that we had a few minutes ago when Mr. Ecker made his presentation on where we are financially, if we want that to continue, we have to stay disciplined. Did I
That was great.
capture it, Ms. Zelazowski?
And is it fair to say, as we wrap this up, given some things that we've heard, that beyond the staffing plan and without using, there are ways that the district targets its resources throughout the school year to support schools that are facing particular struggles?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, and to Mr. Ecker's point that he stated earlier, and we're looking at every dollar that we spend. So while on $100 million budget, someone may say, well, okay, you save $5,000 in banking services. The way that I interpret that is, but with $5,000, maybe we can send 2 teachers to a conference now, or maybe now an academic specialist can buy the resource books that So that $5,000, while it may not sound large, it is, and depending on the situation, if I had $5,000 more to give to APSI, that could make the difference between a student or two going to the trip without having to pay or not. So every dollar does count to a degree.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to close questions and discussion and move to our action item.
Okay. It is recommended that the school board approve preliminary staffing plan, teacher and educational, operational, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
the motion passes. So on to B in this section, action to approve the 2025-26 teacher contract changes, including a preliminary financial non-renewals and salary changes. Do you have anything we need to discuss? Questions?
I would, as part of the process to go ahead and reduce contracts in Wisconsin, a preliminary and final non-renewal notice are part of that statutorily defined process. Following, if you approve the preliminary notices this evening, I will follow up with these employees and notify them of the steps involved. These are financial non-renewal notices for decisions that we've made based on enrollment and student registrations. They are not performance-based. If we have other staffing changes between now and the end of the year that allow us to go ahead and place these individuals within the staffing plan that you just approved, that is a process we would engage in.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we will move to hearing the motion.
It is recommended that the school board approve the 25-26 teacher contract changes, including preliminary financial non-renewals and salary changes. I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion carries. I move to letter C, action to approve the 2025-27 administrative contract for Patrick Kriegel as Associate Principal of Longfellow Middle School effective July 1, 2025 for 221 days per year and annual salary of $95,446.
Board members who continued from last year would recall that Mr. Kriegel was the interim associate principal at Longfellow. We were very fortunate in permanently filling the position to have very strong internal and external applicants after a rigorous selection process. Ms. Porter recommended that we continue with Mr. Kriegel in that capacity. It has been a great opportunity these past few months, and she's really excited about the future for Longfellow, as we are all.
Thank you.
He's a proud Wauwatosa East graduate.
He is.
Longtime member of the Roosevelt
Yeah.
faculty. So
As a school counselor.
as a school counselor. And I think it just speaks to the dean of students position, creating a bench for our talent. I mean, in the past, we would have lost these people, and then we would hope that they would come back to us. I think we're developing a deeper bench by having the dean position. So we're excited for Patrick.
From board members, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, move to the motion, please.
It is recommended that the school board approve the 2025 to 2027 administrative contract for Patrick Kriegel as Associate Principal of Longfellow Middle School, effective July 1st, 2025, for 221 days per year at an annual salary of $95,446, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Ooh, I'm going to call that for Jason.
That's a good call.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
and the motion carries. Moving to letter D, action to approve the 2025-27 administrative contract for Matthew Trillo and is Associate Principal of Whitman Middle School effective July 1, 2025 for 221 days per year at an annual salary of $96,446.
Thank you. Similarly, Mr. Troilo started in the Wauwatosa School District around the winter of 2023 in one of the newly created Dean of Students positions at Whitman. He served in that position well. He stepped into the interim role as an interim associate principal this past winter and distinguished his work as well as the support he could provide to Whitman very soundly and is coming to this recommendation now through a very rigorous process. The school as well as Ms. Dianich are excited to have him continue in this capacity.
Thank you.
If I may just, I think you're being modest. I think Matt has also been one of our best recruiters. He comes to us from the Milwaukee Academy of Science, and the number of staff members that he has shared with his former colleagues of saying, there's good things happening in Wauwatosa, come over and work with us. I think Ms. Dianich would say Whitman has profited and the district has profited. Sarah, I want to
100%.
tee that up for you.
Yes, thank you. Matt is one of our best recruiters. We appreciate his contributions and the wide net that he casts. And I would also say that individuals he has recruited have found a really nice home here in Wauwatosa.
Thank you. Board members, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, if you would read the motion, please.
It is recommended that the school board approve the 2025 to 27 administrative contract for Matthew Troilo as Associate Principal of Whitman Middle School effective July 1st, 2025 for 221 days per year at an annual salary of $96,446, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
There you go.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Ms. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Bach?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Ms. Heimer Roland?
Yes.
Dr. Worley?
Yes,
Mr. Wadier?
Yes.
the motion carries. And thank you for all of your work. So we move to our number 7, board governance. We have one item under that to discuss tonight, which is just to go over school board graduation participation and make sure that everyone has the information that they need.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Worley. High school graduation is one of the most important events we hold in a school district. It is supposed to hold reverence in our community and have all the pomp and circumstance that it deserves. We host our high school graduations at the Wauwatosa West Field because we do not have any indoor facility to host that type of event where we can gather that large of a crowd. And so we hope that we will have pleasant weather the evening of Friday, June 13th, and then again in the late morning, early afternoon of Saturday, June 14th. You may be wondering, why does Wauwatosa East have their graduation at Wauwatosa West? Due to some of the fees that were being applied in the use of Hart Park, we shifted things over to Wauwatosa West and in a cost savings measure to make sure that we could control the environment ourselves. It's important for board members to be present for graduation because what I read to the community is that you, the board, you are endorsing those individuals who are coming across the stage. You are saying that they have met the requirements to claim that they are either a Wauwatosa East or Wauwatosa West graduate. And so it's our hope that many of you can be present for one or both of the ceremonies on the 13th and 14th.
Any questions from board members?
And Dr. Worley, we have a present for you. We have the diplomas for you to sign. It's maybe in the future we can have the electric signature. I have always taken the approach that the young people who have met the requirements to graduate they deserve an
Absolutely.
actual signature. We want to gift that to you,
Thank you.
and give that to you. We do want to, we'll try to put it on the next, agenda so we can act on who will be at those, events, because Ms. Summers, she's getting anxious. We like to get the cap and gown information for board members right away. So if you are going to be there, then we would want to make sure that we get you sized up through Jostens to get your cap and gown orders ready. Right, Ms. Summers?
That's correct.
Yep.
And it's also nice to have a discussion to, we might not all of us go to both graduations, but it's nice to make sure we have a solid presence at both of them. So we can have that as part of the discussion as well.
We do post both of them, and some
Right.
board members may not want to be on stage. You may want to just be in the audience, and that's okay too. But so we do post both events.
If a board member is on stage, what do they typically do?
You actually hand the young people, the graduates, their diplomas, and you shake their hand.
Can we request certain graduates, like if we had our own children walking across the stage?
We managed that last year.
We would be disappointed if you don't.
I had a child
Okay.
and we divided the alphabet up in such a way that
Yes,
that was possible.
we would be disappointed.
So just
if you
make sure that we are aware.
Excellent, thank you.
To run both ways though.
Right,
Get one and then run over the other side.
yeah, I'll do it, yeah.
I did have to rely on other people to get those extra photos from, a distance, but it worked out. Okay, well, thank you very much. We will move to our favorite agenda item of the evening. No, I'm just kidding. Number 8, we are moving to adjourn. The time is 9:15 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn, Liz?
I move to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Would you please call the roll?
Ms. Brzezinski,
Yes.
Mr. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Ms. Harmer Walland,
Yes.
Dr. Worley,
Yes,
Mr. Wadier.
Yes.
motion passes.